Chapter 10:22 Soon, various information about forbidden spells from the Divine Era appeared in front of General Ryder, the commander-in-chief of the Empire's invasion. Summoning Great Flood, a forbidden spell that appeared about 10 times in the Divine Era. It requires favorable weather conditions and the power of summer rain and natural rivers to trigger a flood. It is the most recorded forbidden spell. The achievement is the flooding of dozens of villages, causing millions of people to be displaced, and a death toll of over 300,000. It is hailed as one of the few large-scale destructive forbidden spells in the Divine Era. We, the Magic Army Legion, can also do such things now. General Ryder shook his head. The power of the flood is insignificant to the modern magic armor troops, as they were famous forbidden spells in the Divine Era. This spell is only used to harm unprepared civilians. It still relies on the power of heavy rain and large rivers. Perhaps it was a terrifying spell in the Divine Era, but it poses no threat to the modern Magic Army Legion. Necromancy, Sue's Revival, a necromancy forbidden spell that has appeared 3 times. It can summon the dead as monsters within a large area. By sacrificing enough hero-ranked corpses, it can even create over 20 hero-ranked undead knights at once. Achievement: the formidable forbidden spell that once destroyed several kingdoms. The largest undead army had 39 hero-ranked knights. It is impressive, but the Empire's first Magic Army Legion can still win. The modern magic armor is completely fearless of those bone frames. With the 3 titled machines, they can even annihilate all the undead hero-ranked knights. It's the turn for the army to fight on a large scale. The Empire's top Magic Army Legion can defeat any knight group from the Divine Era. This is a change of time. Also, in this era, where can we find so many bodies of powerful heroes to resurrect? The entire kingdom probably doesn't have even a double-digit number of hero-ranked individuals. Frost Dragon Spear, the strongest single-target forbidden spell from the Divine Era. It has been recorded 3 times, and each time, it kills a knight who is almost at the pinnacle of hero-ranked. However, all the casters also die. The achievements are only killing 3 people, but each one was a single-strike kill. The targeted individuals all turn into snow powder. The recorded strongest single-target forbidden spell, no matter how strong it is, doesn't have much impact on the battlefield. At most, it can kill a knight on a titled machine. Heavenly Thunderstorm, a powerful forbidden spell that has only been witnessed once. Its effect is to create a thunderstorm covering a radius of 10 kilometers and release hundreds and thousands of lightning bolts. The achievement is wiping out an entire knight group of 10,000 members, instantly killing more than double-digit hero-ranked knights. It is hailed as one of the strongest attack forbidden spells from the Divine Era. If this move is used, there will be a large number of casualties in the Magic Army Legion. General Ryder's expression gradually becomes serious. Worthy of being hailed as one of the strongest forbidden spells from the Divine Era, once Thundercloud art is successfully released, it poses a huge threat even to the modern Magic Army Legion. However, if the machine called Titled Machine can activate a strong enough shield, it is a powerful defense that even a king with Divine Era bloodline cannot break, and it can completely defend against thunderbolt strikes. It is threatening, but only for the mass-produced magic armor. The titled machine will not be broken. And these are all the large-scale forbidden spells that the Empire can find with combat records. Most of the mages in the Divine Era paid with their own lives to use these forbidden spells. The so-called forbidden spells not only refer to the terrifying power of these spells, but also the taboos that must be violated when using these spells. In history, most mages who used forbidden spells died immediately after successfully casting them, and the best ones were left with only their lives. There are more cases where the magic power is insufficient to support the release of forbidden spells, and they perish halfway, and uncontrolled forbidden spells even end up killing their own side. None of them. General Ryder looked at these recorded combat achievements of the Empire's forbidden spells, even the final thunderstorm only posed a strategic threat to the Empire's first magic army legion. Ordinary mass-produced machines cannot withstand the thunderbolt strikes, and there is some threat to the titled machine, but it cannot reach the effect of turning tens of kilometers into ashes, the shockwave-induced hot wind even blowing hundreds of kilometers away. If you keep reading, the story will become more like a fantasy and legend, rather than a true record of war. To come back to life completely, just keep the body intact, pray to the gods, and the deceased can come back to life. There has never been a forbidden magic spell like this in history, it's uncertain if it even exists. But there are records of resurrection, performed by a holy woman blessed by the gods. God-summoning magic, also mentioned in the teachings of the Church, but there are no real records of this forbidden spell. It is said that once successfully cast, it can summon angels for battle. If we consider these two spells as having some traces of appearing before, all the others mentioned below are pure nonsense in General Ryder's opinion. Earth dissolution harnesses the power collected in the Earth's core, causing volcanic eruptions and earthquakes that can destroy everything. Once unleashed, it can create a catastrophic disaster. Control the power of the Earth's core. Come on, that's a joke. If you have that kind of power, who needs volcanoes and earthquakes? You can do anything to the whole world. Creating a sun, condensing an energy mass equivalent to the sun, raising the temperature of the air by 100 times. The endless light and heat will burn everything to ashes, it's the judgment of doomsday. Hey, there's a limit to bragging. Creating an energy mass equivalent to the sun, that's not called a spell, it's called world destruction. Mental storm, release the power of the soul that can deceive the world. If all the people in the world believe that something is true, then a lie can also become true. Hey, whose random thoughts are these, dominating the consciousness of all humanity? Can a human achieve such a field? After seeing enough of these fantasies that sound nice but are actually like a madman's imagination, General Ryder tiredly put down these records of forbidden spells. Finally, with a somewhat complicated expression, he opened a scroll marked Top Secret. What was recorded on it were the unsuccessful experiments during the Divine Era and the byproduct of that experiment. That experiment actually had nothing to do with forbidden spells. It was the research of the last wizards in the Divine Era who were trying to find a power that could replace the dwindling magic tide as the world entered its decline. A nuclear explosion. General Ryder really didn't want to admit it, but perhaps this was the closest explanation to this phenomenon. There is no power that appears out of thin air. Even the forbidden spells of the Divine Era must have some trace to follow. Chapter 1023 The terrifying high temperature, which reached millions of degrees, was only recorded once in the Divine Era. Moreover, the inaccurate data was measured only after the experiment went out of control, and the temperature at the center of the explosion may have been much higher than this number. If that's the case, it can explain why even 3 titled machines couldn't escape and might have been instantly destroyed. The nuclear explosion recorded in that experiment didn't occur on the battlefield, but it also destroyed a magic tower considered one of the greatest works of the Divine Era, along with the large underground testing ground beneath it, which turned into ashes. According to later data analysis, the power of that nuclear explosion reached an unimaginable level, surpassing any forbidden spell in historical records. Even though the nuclear explosion itself is not a forbidden spell, it is a disaster that occurs when a certain force loses control. However, if there is any force in this world that can easily wipe out the Empire's strongest first magic army legion from the face of the earth, perhaps it is only this. Has the research that failed even in the Divine Era succeeded here? General Ryder looked at the scroll containing a series of shocking data and realized that only such a power could explain the demise of the Empire's first magic army legion. As someone who values reason, he was reluctant to believe that these seemingly fantastical data should exist and that calling the nuclear explosion a fantasy-based forbidden spell was not an exaggeration at all. Even the strongest war armor created by the Empire, with special magical powers and titles, is just a slightly harder toy in the face of a nuclear explosion, and can only last for 3 seconds. Tap. 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 General Ryder tapped the table with his pipe, not considering those imaginary magic spells, but looking at the practical observations and conclusions. The forbidden spell that completely destroyed the Empire's proud First Magic Army Legion is undoubtedly nuclear explosion. Whether it was the huge mushroom cloud observed in the first moment or the subsequent orange shockwave, it perfectly matched the scenery described in the records of a nuclear explosion. In the face of such power, even having more of the Empire's First Magic Army legions is meaningless. The destructive power of a nuclear explosion exceeds any recorded forbidden spell from the Divine Era, even though it wasn't actually developed as a forbidden spell. Someone, gather the commanders of the 2nd and 3rd Army Corps as quickly as possible. Suspend the siege tactics on the capital of the kingdom and report what happened here to His Majesty the Emperor. The entire army, stay in position and don't allow anyone to approach within a 150-kilometer radius of the capital of the kingdom. With certainty that this phenomenon was a nuclear explosion and not some imaginary ground dissolution or romantic falling stars, General Ryder promptly gave the order to suspend the invasion. In his opinion, the kingdom waited until the very last moment to use this special card, even sacrificing the previous king as bait to trick the First Magic Army Legion into leaving the battle line and becoming surrounded. It had a certain meaning. Perhaps it was because launching this kind of nuclear explosion required a very long preparation time. The previous king and the Royal Knight group were used to buy time. Perhaps the unknown carrier that carried the nuclear explosion can only lock onto a limited area. Only a fool would believe it's a star. Regardless, since the kingdom played this card, which he found extremely difficult to handle, the course of the war from this moment on became confusing. He had a feeling that this invasion of the kingdom might end here. This was the intuition of the commander-in-chief of the kingdom's invasion war, the judgment of the battle situation. Just by looking at his trembling and demoralized subordinates, anyone could understand how terrifying the deterrent power of the nuclear explosion was. If this problem couldn't be solved, the war couldn't continue at all. At the very least, they needed military force that could counter the nuclear explosion in order to continue the conquest of the kingdom. And based on General Ryder's understanding of the Empire, that kind of force might not be non-existent. The kingdom brought out their strongest weapon, and the Empire had to show some results too, otherwise not only would they not be able to invade the kingdom, but the Empire itself would face a huge crisis. Nuclear explosions, the highest level of strategic power, have such tremendous deterrent force. As long as the kingdom still has this powerful weapon, it will be difficult for other forces to conquer them. Anyone who has witnessed the terrifying aftermath of a nuclear explosion would be overwhelmed by its power, including General Ryder himself. I never expected that the last princess still held this card. After issuing the order to pause the attack, General Ryder gazed into the distance at the horizon. In terms of generations, he was actually considered the elder of the princess. On the family tree, he is about 3 generations older than her. The Empire and the kingdom originally branched out from the same family. The royal family of the kingdom inherits the pure bloodline of the Divine Era, guarding the mysterious Divine Era heritage from generation to generation. They are the pure descendants of the Divine Era. The imperial family, on the other hand, lost the power of the Divine Era bloodline but relied on their own intelligence to create the magic armor of the new era, leading them on the path of dark technology. I underestimated you. General Ryder knocked all the ash out of his pipe. Now, you must be smiling, the princess who inherited the Divine Era bloodline. The girl Ain looked at the giant egg in front of her with a worried face. She had been restless since last night. Now, what should I do? Ain, as the princess who inherited the pure Divine Era bloodline, may soon become a queen, but she had never felt so helpless before. All her knowledge seemed meaningless in the face of this dragon egg that was almost twice her size. Dragons, a fantasy creature, had completely disappeared from this world since the end of the Divine Era. Although no one had found the bodies of these colossal beings, everyone believed they had gone extinct. Like many other fantasy creatures that only appeared during the Divine Era, the weakening of the magic tide caused these magical beings to perish one by one. Now, only a few severely degraded subspecies remain. Even so, these rare subspecies are on the verge of extinction, just like Ain's pure Divine Era bloodline, which is equally vulnerable. Now, the true Divine Era bloodline of the entire kingdom, after the king and queen died in battle, only remains with her and her sister Adley. Reaching out, gently touching the shell of this silver dragon egg, Ain could feel the incredibly vibrant life force within it. Even in the form of an egg, the silver dragon that fell from the sky still displayed extraordinary power that this world couldn't imagine. That was a power that had surpassed Ain's understanding. Finally, Ain went to the lowest level of the Divine Era Tower, and then found a book in the library that could only be opened by the Divine Era bloodline, the correct method of hatching dragon eggs. Chapter 10:24 Princess Ain, the last of the Divine Era Kingdom, looked at the book in her hands with a troubled expression. The correct method for hatching dragon eggs, author, unknown source, unknown. If it weren't for her extraordinary love for reading and her knowledge of the books left behind in the ancient Divine Era library, she would have never imagined that there was such a book in the library. Who on earth wrote this book that humans would never have any use for, and for what purpose? Moreover, it was boldly placed in the Divine Era Tower's most precious library, alongside the spellbooks that contain various Divine Era magic. Could this really not be someone's prank? Even the humans of the Divine Era period couldn't get close enough to the dragons to know the exact method for hatching their eggs. However, Ain could only try her luck with whatever she had now. With her vast knowledge of the Divine Era, she understood clearly how powerful dragons were. Even in the Divine Era, where many heroes emerged, dragons still stood at the pinnacle of the world's hierarchy. They had gigantic bodies that reached tens of meters, and some records even mentioned hundreds of meters. Their scales were so strong that they could easily ignore most magic attacks from the Divine Era. A single dragon could match an army of 10,000 people and possessed a strong desire for revenge. Throughout history, every hero who managed to slay a dragon met a tragic end. Furious dragons even destroyed more than one human kingdom. By the end of the Divine Era, the world's magic tide began to decline, and the number of hero-ranked humans decreased. The presence of dragons slowly vanished from this world. The last sighting of a dragon happened a long, long time ago. Like the fading bloodline of the Divine Era, dragons gradually became legends. There were no wars or precise records of their deaths, but modern people could only gather knowledge about dragons from murals and books. The dragon race has disappeared from this world. Even if there are one or two survivors, they are probably rare creatures on the brink of extinction. This is what the people of this era think about dragons. Ain, who possesses the bloodline of the Divine Era, is no exception. Not until witnessing the shimmering silver dragon fall from the sky and instantly wipe out the Empire's first magic army legion. There's no other choice. This is our last hope. If we can't get help from Lord Silver Dragon, this country will surely perish. Ain gritted her teeth as she looked at the untouched book titled The Correct Method of Hatching Dragon Eggs. For some reason, there was a seal placed on top of this book, which was located at the bottom floor of the library. Only the royal family members with the Divine Era bloodline can break the seal. Currently, the only ones who can open this book in the country are Ain and her younger sister Adley. Long ago, Ain was curious about the contents of this book, but her mother immediately stopped her. You can't read this book. The contents inside are still too early for you. To see the content of this book, you have to wait until you turn 18, okay? At that time, Ain was very confused. Was this book some kind of scary banned book? Biting his finger, I depicted a magical formation in The Correct Method of Hatching Dragon Eggs that only the royal family knew. This magical formation was not recorded in any books. It was a secret passed down through generations of the royal family. There were only a few books in the library that required this magic to open, and they were all related to the divine era's heritage. This book was the exception because it clearly stated on the cover, "Please open after reaching the age of 18. Ein was not yet 18, but he couldn't worry about that anymore. Soft white light gradually covered the book's cover, and then the light of knowledge, which could not be obtained by ordinary people, began to seep into Ein's palms. The hidden cover began to appear, and at just a first glimpse, Ein's face turned red. He understood why his mother had insisted that he wait until he was 18 to read this book. The Correct Method of Hatching Dragon Eggs, the title was written at the top of the cover, and below it was, the young girl, completely naked, held a nearly translucent dragon egg in her hands. Her delicate and graceful body emphasized two soft, rounded breasts that trembled lightly. Her full and smooth skin, along with her snow-white legs, emitted a soft glow. Her small knees and the bends of her legs had a powdery orange-red hue, as if covered in tiny sparkling droplets. The incredibly pale cleavage, cute little belly button, and slender waist were all clearly visible. Her soft and smooth feet were creamy and moist, not revealing any bones. They tempted people to hold them, gently squeeze and knead them, and savor them with abandon. The girl's eyes were filled with satisfaction and happiness, a temperament that Ein seemed unable to understand at the moment. While cradling the dragon egg in her hands, she had slender shoulders, a delicate neck, slender collarbones, and thin arms. Her delicately cute appearance made people uncontrollably want to indulge in their desires. The dragon egg she held had an unusual white color, like layers of creamy white milk. This smooth whiteness was so rich that it gave the illusion of being tender and delicious. Why would this be the cover? What does it have to do with hatching dragon eggs? Ein shyly turned over the cover and began to absorb knowledge from the divine era. However, her slender and firm legs, with their round ankles and tucked-in toes, couldn't help but tremble slightly, as if sensing something. On the first page of the book, The Correct Method of Hatching Dragon Eggs, there are some descriptions about the characteristics of the giant dragons. It is clear that despite the explicit cover, the author of this book has a very deep understanding of the dragon race, and Ein quickly became engrossed in it. This book is the most accurate description of the habits of the dragon race that she has ever read. Dragons are very powerful creatures. It is extremely difficult for them to get pregnant, so they cherish dragon eggs very much. The female dragon that lays the dragon eggs will stay by their side without eating or drinking for several years. During the incubation period of the dragon eggs, male dragons take on the task of hunting for food, and there may even be more than one male dragon guarding the female dragon. If a few dragon eggs are accidentally lost and cannot be hatched by the mother dragon, most of them will die and become lifeless eggs. Therefore, it is necessary to consider how to hatch dragon eggs when the mother dragon is not present. The book records the correct method for intelligent beings to hatch dragon eggs. Chapter 10:25 We purchased the correct method for hatching dragon eggs. The first thing needed for the correct hatching of dragon eggs is love. Love? Ein hesitated, not expecting this to be the first requirement. Dragon eggs are extraordinary and special living beings. The one who hatches them must have 100% love for the dragon eggs in order to awaken the sleeping baby dragons inside. Even though they are still in egg form, the baby dragons have some perception of the outside world. Remember, it is necessary to incubate the dragon eggs with love. If this cannot be done, it is better to give up on hatching the dragon eggs. Dragons hatched in malicious environments, even if by chance they succeed, will become extremely terrifying creatures. They might even kill all the surrounding creatures the moment they open their eyes. To hatch a dragon egg, it is best to find a pure-hearted girl who is under 18 years old. Only after meeting this condition can the next step be taken. For this reason, the correct method for hatching dragon eggs even specifically depicts the outline of the ideal girl for hatching dragon eggs, which coincidentally matches the girl I saw on the cover. Blushing, Ayn carefully compared herself to the girl in the book and discovered that she met most of the requirements. Body, qualified. Chest, barely qualified. Smoothness of the skin, qualified. At least she met this initial condition. As if feeling Ayn's gaze, the pages continued to turn, starting to explain in detail the other conditions for hatching dragon eggs. After meeting the basic conditions for hatching dragon eggs, it is necessary to determine what type of dragon egg it is. Eggs laid by different types of dragons have different requirements for hatching conditions. Red dragons, without exception, are mostly fire dragons. These dragon eggs need to be hatched as close as possible to regions with active fire elements, preferably inside volcanoes. I can't do that. Ayn shook her head. She's not a grand mage from the divine era, she doesn't have the ability to survive inside a volcano. Soaking the magma is used to warm up the shell of the rising dragon eggs. Only fire dragons can do things like taking a bath with dragon eggs in magma. The black dragon prefers wet and hot environments. A toxic swamp is an ideal place for hatching eggs. Ayn sighed. It's impossible to do that. The toxic swamp is located within the Empire's territory. How can he bring such a large dragon egg there to hatch? Blue dragons are mostly water or ice dragons. They can consider hatching eggs underwater or in the icy world at the edge of the world. Ayn calculated the distance and the difficulty of the round trip. Where do the dragons hatch their eggs? Turning the pages, Ayn gained a lot of knowledge about dragon egg hatching, but none of it matched his situation. The book vividly depicted the appearance of different dragon eggs when they grow up, the appearance of the dragons at the pinnacle of all creatures in this world. Different dragon eggs correspond to different types of dragons. There are about dozens of branches. These were the rulers of the ancient times, even during the divine era, which was the peak of human civilization. The dragons were the rulers of the world. The problem is, none of these dragons matched the silver-white dragon Ayn saw. The beautiful and proud figure, a mix of a dragon and a half-human outline, with shimmering scales, was more powerful and sacred than any dragon recorded in this book. After flipping through the entire book, How to Hatch Dragon Eggs Correctly, Ayn only had one kind of knowledge mentioned on the cover: to embrace the dragon egg with love. No matter what type of dragon it is, this method is universal and serves as the foundation for all egg hatching methods. Even for dragon eggs that don't belong to this world, it's the same. With a nervous heart, Ayn shyly removed their clothes and pressed against the shell of this huge dragon egg. Compared to the eggs depicted in the book, this egg was really too big. Even with Ayn's effort to reach out their hands, they couldn't hold the egg. They could only feel the smoothness and warmth of the egg with the temperature of their own skin. Bang! 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 They could hear the strong and powerful heartbeat contained within the silver-white dragon egg. That is the heartbeat of life. That is the most wonderful sound in the world. Dragon eggs must be nurtured with love, and Ayn's little face turned red. For someone who is not yet 18 years old, this method of hatching eggs is really exciting. The closer she got to this silver-white dragon egg, the more she could feel that strange and warm aura. The girl's skin gently touched the smooth shell of the dragon egg as she poured her love into it, bit by bit. Hurry up and hatch, mighty silver dragon. This country needs your power. If what I do can be of any help to you, even just a little bit, that would be great. In a haze, Yunshi heard the sound of a heartbeat. One was a very, very powerful heartbeat that shook the entire world. Each beat caused a tremendous impact, as if to shatter the darkness that enveloped him. One is a very, very faint and warm heartbeat, which is so weak compared to the huge heartbeat, yet it bravely makes its own sound. Am I still alive? Oh, right, I successfully escaped from there. So, what do I look like now? Inside my body, there flows scorching blood, and with every breath, I can feel an immensely powerful force. Can a human body have a heartbeat like this? Can a human body have blood that churns like a volcano eruption? A vast amount of limits seems to have been shattered in one breath. This body has an incredible strength, and there are even some unusual things accompanying it. In my memory, it seems that I traveled through countless star territories in one breath, and finally landed in an unknown world. When crossing the atmosphere, everything around was burning wildly and the temperature reached a terrifying level. Even meteorites made entirely of metal would instantly turn to ashes. However, this wasn't a threat. Despite being in a hazy state, Yunshi felt this way. Although the Earth was getting closer, there was no fear at all. Just fall like this. In the depths of his mind, he seemed to sense a signal, like an apple naturally falling from a tree. He also collided with the Earth of this world. In the warm orange, everything started to become peaceful. Sleep now, and after waking up, you will be able to see a brand new world. At that time, proudly lift your head and fulfill the task of coming to this world, child. Chapter 10:26 We purchased in Ein's memory. Incubating eggs was a privilege of birds and reptiles. It was natural to assume that hatching dragon eggs would be a similar process. Although the dragon egg she was incubating was much bigger than the dragon eggs mentioned in the book, the correct way to hatch dragon eggs, the principle should be similar. The most important thing to hatch a dragon egg, as mentioned in the book, is love, which she should have plenty of. She had the highest respect for the silver dragon that had descended from the sky and saved the entire kingdom, and she also felt an indescribable sense of gratitude. When she saw the majestic silver figure, her heart couldn't help but beat faster, as if there were voices echoing in her mind. This was destiny, her destiny as a princess in the divine era. If it weren't for this, how would she have such a coincidental encounter with a divine silver dragon descending from the sky? The splendid and powerful presence made her blush and her heart race uncontrollably, also bringing her a glimpse of dawn. She was the last princess of this country and the last remaining member of the divine era bloodline on this continent. Her father and mother bravely sacrificed themselves, protecting the country until the very end. At that time, she saw her father and mother leave, and she prepared herself for the scariest nightmare that she and her sister would face. But even so, she didn't give up hope. Until the very last moment, she would not sacrifice herself easily. Until the very last moment, she would not give up hope. Even if it was an unfounded method like wishing to the stars, she hoped to protect her country until the very end. Even when the nobles in the royal city completely gave up, she never gave up either. This is the dignity from the divine era bloodline. Even in death, she would lift her head high and face it with dignity. If the dragon egg needed blood as a sacrifice, she would willingly cut her wrist and offer her own blood. She was willing to give all of her love to hatch the dragon egg, considering it the most important thing in her life, as it carried the sacred silver dragon. At first, this process went very smoothly. Very soon, she heard the gradually synchronized heartbeat, naked with her snowy white body pressed against the dragon egg. She could even feel a special energy flowing back from the dragon egg and entering her body. The place where this scorching energy passed through made Ein tremble uncontrollably, and her snowy white skin turned a charming crimson. However, the development of the situation quickly exceeded Ein's imagination. It's so hot. As the girl's snowy white body began to be colored, her body temperature continued to rise. The dragon's spiritual energy forcibly entered her body, flowing through her blood vessels and nerves unstoppably. In just a short 10 minutes, it surpassed the limit of Princess Ein, who possessed a divine era bloodline. Her racial limit has been reached. As a non-dragon, even if she is full of love, her physical condition cannot meet the requirements of hatching a dragon egg. This kind of thing should never be done by creatures other than dragons. To hatch a dragon egg, you need love, special environments with magic, and the crucial care of the dragon mother. Just like a sparrow trying to hatch an ostrich egg, the huge difference in size and total amount of magic between them makes this an impossible task. After 15 minutes, Princess Ein trembled all over. Her snow-white, tender little feet slipped weakly from the shell of the dragon egg. Her whole body was mixed with sweat and a special fragrance, and her tired face showed an expression of exhaustion and excitement. I can't do it. It's not that Princess Ein's will is not strong enough, or that her love is insufficient, but what was consumed during the fusion with the dragon egg far exceeded her imagination. In just 15 minutes, she had more than 10 convulsions. A certain shy liquid mixed with sweat made her too embarrassed to even lift her head. She's still an unmarried princess. If people find out about this, how can she still get married? Is this an exception? Is it because this dragon egg is special? Why is it that something as simple as embracing a dragon egg, she cannot endure? After 15 minutes, she was completely weak and unable to lift even a finger. It was as if she had been ruthlessly violated over and over again, like an unfortunate girl. Finally, what went wrong? Ein struggled with their sore and numb body, struggling to pick up the book, The Correct Way to Hatch Dragon Eggs. They flipped through the pages until they reached the last one, only then realizing what they had overlooked. The correct way to hatch dragon eggs, note, considering the huge differences in body size and magical power limit between dragonkind and other intelligent beings, if there is a need for non-dragon intelligent beings to hatch dragon eggs, more people are required to assist in the hatching process. Depending on the different characteristics of the dragon eggs, the required materials and number of people for hatching will vary. Taking the weakest white dragon as an example, please prepare at least around 100 pure, innocent girls as candidates for egg hatching. If these girls possess a divine era bloodline or an equivalent exceptional physique, it would be even better. If they don't possess any special bloodline, then more people are needed to make up for it. It seems that the back cover is specifically drawn to illustrate the facilities needed for the ideal hatching of dragon eggs. It is an extremely large bath that can accommodate 3-digit girls bathing together. A transparent dragon egg is placed in the center of the bath, and the girls are scattered around it, looking at the egg with curiosity or excitement in their eyes. Most of them were human, but there were also some from other races. The mermaid clan, with beautiful fish tails, gathered in groups while holding harps. They seemed to be singing lullabies for the tiny life inside the eggs. The fairy clan, with pointed ears, decorated the dragon eggs with green leaves, full of laughter and joy. There were also rare elemental spirits, dancing gracefully around the dragon eggs. Their only common trait was that they were all completely naked, showcasing the natural beauty of their respective races as they surrounded the dragon egg. This book is just... Ein was at a loss for words. The author who wrote this book must be abnormal, or perhaps it was permeated with a prank-like taste from beginning to end. How terrible of a character must someone be to write such a book? Unfortunately, she had no other choice. It seemed that she was too arrogant, thinking she could hatch this dragon egg all by herself. This kind of creature wants to break out of its shell, but she alone is unable to do so. At the same time, it also unraveled a huge mystery that had existed in her heart for a long time. Chapter 10:27 We purchased that puzzle is precisely about the final divine era legacy related to the protection of the kingdom. Apart from a few royal bloodline families from the divine era, no one knows why this ancient divine era tower was built. In the eyes of others, this is the last well-preserved divine era legacy on the continent. Other buildings related to the Divine Era have long been eroded by time over millions of years, and most have turned to ashes. Not even fragments remain. The few lucky ones that have been left behind mostly exist in certain forbidden areas with taboo powers as ruins. Among them, the majority exist as tombs, becoming part of the Forbidden Zone underground, relying on the special magic left by the deceased before their death. Standing in the center of the human city and still in perfect condition up to now, there is only this tall tower from the Divine Era. The God Tower. Tower of Origins. Tower of Stargazing. Uninformed people have given various names to this tower from the Divine Era. It is not affected by the power of time, even after millions of years it still stands tall, without any traces of dirt from the passing years, shining with white light under the sunlight every day. For ordinary people who have long lost the magical power of the Divine Era, this tower from the Divine Era is a miracle and also a symbol of the kingdom. Many people believe that as long as this tower stands on this land, the glory of the Divine Era has not ended. The first generation of kings who founded this ancient kingdom was said to have initially been the guardian of this tower. Since then, the role of the tower's guardian has been passed down through the Divine Era bloodline of the royal family, until Princess Aine's generation. Until Aine opened the book titled The Right Method for Hatching Dragon Eggs, he naturally thought that the Divine Era tower was used for observing stars at the observatory. After all, this tower, which reaches a height of hundreds of meters, is still the tallest building on the continent, and the Great Plain where the royal city is located is also the most suitable terrain for stargazing. On clear nights, this tower can easily observe the most beautiful starry sky in this continent. Even though humans cannot leave this land, let alone traverse the atmosphere to truly experience the magnificent scenery of the stars, as long as they gaze at the galaxy, they can feel that they are also a part of the stars. Throughout millions of years, the most abundant books left in the tower are various records of stargazing, from the mid-Divine Era onwards, without interruption. The atmosphere of this world is an insurmountable barrier, but the humans on this land see the boundless starry sky. They confirm that the world they are in is round, and the countless stars in the sky are different worlds. Currently, all the stars that can be directly observed have not found any traces of similar civilizations, but occasionally, they discover the figures of certain terrifying creatures roaming in the sky. However, not a single one of those creatures that can travel across the starry sky has ever discovered this world that is within reach, as if this world doesn't exist in the starry sky. This problem is also a mystery in the entire world history. Even though humans cannot fly outside the atmosphere, from the Divine Era onwards, it is not surprising that they built a magnificent observatory, chasing the path of the stars. Princess Aine also thought this way before she knew the truth. Reading various astronomy knowledge and imagining the scenery beyond the galaxy, it is one of the favorite hobbies of the guardians of the Divine Era Tower throughout generations. Therefore, she always found it strange why, underground in the Divine Era Tower where she and the warlocks of the Divine Era royal family resided, such a huge and exaggerated pool was built. That pool, to be frank, was so large that even dragons could bathe in it, with a diameter of 1 kilometer. The pool always flowed with comfortably warm water, emitting a pleasant scent that made one feel relaxed. Princess Aine and her younger sister Adli both loved swimming in this pool. As for the royal family members who lived in the Divine Era Tower throughout generations, there were at most a dozen or so. No matter how you think about it, the Divine Era bloodline warlocks, who were the guardians of the Divine Era Tower, didn't need such an unbelievably large pool. Building such a huge pool just for enjoyment was simply wasteful. Maybe, this is a pool that stores magic. The runes engraved on the bottom of that transparent pool are one of the few pieces of knowledge that Princess Aine couldn't find recorded in any Divine Era books. Despite her vast knowledge, she couldn't recognize any of the runes, as they were completely different from the magic system of the Divine Era and seemed to belong to another civilization. It can be confirmed that the reason why this tower is completely unaffected by time, radiating a new brilliance every day in the sunlight, is definitely related to this huge pool. The magical barrier that can cover the entire royal city is rare even in the divine era, and in this era where there is a shortage of hero-rank magicians, there is no second one in the entire continent. Every time Princess Ain enjoys this supersized pool, she is grateful that her ancestors left behind such a valuable heritage. It wasn't until today that she opened this book labeled "Restricted for those above 18" that she finally discovered the truth about the divine era heritage she was protecting. Turns out, the kingdom built this huge tower not to observe the stars, but to protect the pool beneath it. Furthermore, the existence of this pool is what protects the divine era magical barrier that safeguards the entire capital city. This tall tower of the divine era is neither called the God Tower or the Origin Tower, nor is it a stargazing tower. The ones who built it may not even be humans, and the royal family who protects this tower simply made a contract with certain beings, which is why there is this ridiculously large pool and a book that can only be opened by a warlock with the divine era bloodline. This is a tower for hatching dragon eggs. Princess Ain, upon learning the truth, feels that her worldview and outlook on life have been completely overturned. The last preserved heritage of the divine era on this continent is not the work of humans, but the crystallization of the wisdom of dragons. The runes left in that pool are probably the fantasies of the dragon race. This tower might have been the place where the dragon race used to hatch eggs that had lost their mothers a long time ago, and the method of hatching is recorded in that book. After the disappearance of the dragon race, humans became the masters of the land and inherited the legacy of the dragon race, but there were no more dragon eggs that needed humans to help hatch. Until today, she encountered an egg from outside of this world. She thought it was a pool for swimming, but it's actually a supersized bath specifically for hatching eggs. Chapter 10 28-inch We purchased Why Is It Like This? It was originally a secret that belonged only to oneself, a truth that only oneself knew and didn't belong to this world. If possible, Princess Ain would absolutely not want anyone else to touch this silver dragon egg. It is the highest secret of the entire kingdom, with a level of secrecy possibly even greater than the divine era relics she guarded. The divine era relics belong to the mysteries of this world, while the silver sacred dragon comes from a power outside of this world. The moment Princess Ain saw the sacred, pure, and majestic silver figure, she couldn't help but be enamored by it. Now, knowing that she needs the power of other pure maidens to hatch this dragon egg, Princess Ain is extremely reluctant. She didn't even know what happened to herself, but it felt like something very important was going to be taken away. I can still do it. Princess Ain clenched her teeth, wiped herself clean. Even though she was almost drained, she faced the challenge once again and pressed against the shell of the dragon egg. Woo! Ha! No, not there. The enchanting but weak voice spread through the room at the top of the tower. Princess Ain could only hold on for less than a minute before collapsing completely. Her trembling hands and feet, and her slender waist spasming and twitching. Eventually, her snow-white feet pressed firmly together, and a shy blush colored her fair skin. No, she had absorbed more vital energy than her limit. The difference in vitality between dragons and humans was too vast, to the point where it couldn't be changed by individual will alone. No, it just wasn't possible. The size of the two, even if Ain wanted to compensate, was impossible. Now, I have no choice but to find someone to help. Princess Ain lay on the ground, gasping heavily, her eyes filled with strong unwillingness. Why was she so weak and powerless? If her constitution was strong enough to absorb sufficient vital energy, at least she could have lasted longer. 15 minutes is too short for hatching eggs. Big sister, what are you doing? A little figure with a doll in arms pushed open the door of the high tower observatory, looking surprised and confused at Princess Ain, who was completely naked and panting. The second princess of the kingdom, and also the younger sister of Princess Ain, who was one of the remaining two Divine Era bloodline princesses, made her appearance. Little Princess Adley was here. She was 5 years younger than Princess Ain and was only 9 years old this year. She inherited the excellent bloodline of the Divine Era. Since she was young, she had shown extraordinary magic talent. Just like Princess Ain, she was another princess qualified to inherit the Divine Era Tower Guardian's position. Compared to her sister, she had a more delicate and rosy face, a cute figure like a porcelain doll, big watery eyes, and in her innocent and curious pupils, there was a lot of kindness towards the world. Like flowers grown in a greenhouse, a pure and innocent little princess, an elf who knew nothing about the world, these were probably the best words to describe Adley. From childhood to adulthood, she had never held anything heavier than her doll. She grew up being cared for by her parents and sister, and she didn't even know the terrible news that their country was about to be destroyed. She had a big butterfly bow tied on her hair, a big heart-shaped gemstone necklace hanging on her chest, and a standard princess gown. The hem of the dress was surrounded by a circle of white lace, and then there were knee-high pure white stockings, revealing her snow-white and crystal-clear skin between the dress and stockings. Continuing downwards, there was a pair of very cute high-topped round-toe boots. The main part of the boots was pink, but the laces, toes, and soles were off-white, like colors from a fairy tale. "Adley, can you pull me up?" Normally, Ain would never let her little sister see her in such a terrible state, but now she had no strength left. "Okay." Adley ran over to her sister and reached out her hand, trying hard to pull up Princess Ain, who felt weak all over. "Thank you, you've been a great help." With her sister's assistance, Princess Ain managed to put on her clothes and finally regained some of her princess-like appearance. However, her trembling delicate body still faintly revealed something. "Sister, what is this egg? It's so big." After pulling up her sister, the little princess's attention was immediately captured by the silver-white giant egg in front of her. The giant egg was 3 meters tall, 3 times her own height. What kind of creature's egg was this? Why had she never seen it before? Was there something inside the egg? Maybe it's because of the special traits in their bloodline, or maybe it's because they are sisters, but when Adley saw this egg for the first time, she dropped her beloved teddy bear and fell in love with this unknown giant egg. In her little heart, the position of this giant egg was rapidly rising, replacing the spot where her teddy bear used to be, becoming her most favorite thing. Unfortunately, it was just too big, she couldn't even hold it. "Be careful, Adley!" Ain nervously shouted as she watched Adley touch the dragon egg without any protection. Due to her special body as a warlock with Divine Era bloodline, she absorbed almost all of the energy, and her little sister, who was still young, couldn't imagine the consequences of touching the dragon egg. "It's so warm, sis, this egg is really interesting." Contrary to Ain's expectations, Adley quickly adapted to the contact with the dragon egg, and even laughed happily. "Adley!" Ain, witnessing this scene, couldn't help feeling a bit jealous of her own sister. Without a doubt, this meant that her sister had talent surpassing her own, and her affinity with the dragon egg was even higher than hers. This world, it's really unfair. It was her who first found the dragon egg and hugged it, she did everything first. "No. This doesn't seem like my sister." Princess Ain held her head, strongly rejecting her terrible thoughts. Adley is her little sister, the last one on this continent who shares the same Divine Era bloodline with her. Jealousy and such things are too ugly. What is this?" Adley curiously picked up the mysterious book beside the dragon egg. Author, unknown. Source, unknown. Viewing prohibited for those under the age of 18. The correct method for hatching dragon eggs also, on the cover, there's a cute girl hugging the dragon egg with gentle love. The most important thing to hatch a dragon egg is to be full of love. Adley looked at the girl on the cover with innocent eyes and started learning the correct knowledge of hatching dragon eggs, just like her sister. Chapter 10:29 We purchased for a 9-year-old child, especially a little princess living in a fairy tale world. There was nothing strange about the girl on the cover, just like a mermaid. Naturally, she quickly accepted the methods of hatching dragon eggs. First we need to take off our clothes. With innocent eyes, Adley quickly imitated what her sister had just done and took off her princess dress and long socks. Even though she was only 9 years old, Adley had a perfectly adorable body, with a touch of childishness but delicate and smooth skin, as soft and tender as newly fallen snow. With her perfect proportions, slender and round fragrant shoulders, slender waist, and smooth soft tummy, when the gorgeous princess dress slowly floated down from her snowy white fingertips, even Princess Ain's heart couldn't help but beat faster. If my sister can do it, Adley can do it too. The little princess shyly reached out her small hand and straightened her chest. The beautiful and cute Xiao Chow, like a budding flower, delicately and shyly stood on top of the silver giant egg. Compared to her older sister, young Adley's body was more sensitive. Just by touching it, her tender and vibrant lips involuntarily let out a soft moan. The tender and smooth tip of the strawberry started to show more pink. Then, like a spreading infection, it quickly spread all over Adley's small body. Sister, what is this so strange? Like Princess Ain, Adley also felt the burning, passionate dragon's spiritual energy rushing through her young body. Don't resist, Adley. That is a blessing, it's a hope. Ain looked at her cute-sounding sister with a complex expression in her eyes. As someone with experience, she knew how intoxicating that feeling was, but her body couldn't handle it anymore. Sister. I will do my best. Adley, just like Ain, possessed a quality of great determination and managed to endure. Soon, her expression became dazed. Waves of unfamiliar sensations rushed through her tender body. Reactions that shouldn't have appeared at her age emerged prematurely under the influence of the immense dragon's spiritual energy. Just like when they first met, Adley showed even greater magical talent than her older sister, but it didn't mean she could tolerate the dragon's spiritual energy washing over her. Whimper. In less than a minute, Adley's face turned bright red, her feet clenched tightly, and she looked like she was about to cry. Sister. Looking at those unknown watermarks, Adley suddenly became flustered. And what was that feeling just now? It was like being instantly shocked by countless electric currents, causing spasms from her fingertips to her toes. It's okay. Adley, you're growing up. Princess Ain truly didn't know what expression to show in this situation. It should have been a cause for celebration that her younger sister had greater magical talent, but to display it in this way was just too embarrassing. What happened today would definitely remain a secret known only to the two of them. Now, she had to give her sister a lesson in personal hygiene, just like her mother did when she first had her period. Don't be scared, this is something that happens to girls as they grow up. Accompanying Adley, Ain gently cleaned her sister's body. 1 minute later, Adley's little face turned red once again. Her snow-white skin continuously flushed, and the sisters were surprisingly similar in terms of sensitivity. They were both easily moved and incredibly delicate and cute. It means that when they are in this situation, they easily fall down, and both sisters are not immune to this kind of thing. Sister. I feel strange. Feels good, but also scared. This is the first time Adley has experienced this, completely clueless about what is happening. She looks at her sister with teary eyes, but doesn't let go of the dragon egg. Yes, everyone has a first time. Sister is just like you. Ain gently takes care of her little sister, while deeply understanding why the dragon egg hatching ceremony requires such a big bath. So, the purpose of that bath is like this. After realizing the true purpose of the divine era relic she is protecting, Ain's cheeks turn red. The God Tower, which is considered extremely sacred in people's eyes, the Tower of Origin, the Tower of Observing the Stars, and the result is. This secret, I really don't want the people of my own country to know. Whoa whoa. In the girl's tender and pitiful cries, Adley quickly experiences the third, fourth, and fifth shocks. The large dragon's magical energy flowed around the little princess's body, constantly merging and exchanging their respective essences, giving and receiving at the same time. The continuous and adorable sounds lasted for about half an hour before finally coming to an end. Sister, did I do well? Adley lay in her sister's arms, wrapped only in a towel, looking at Princess Ain with a confused expression. After 30 consecutive intense impacts, Adley's tiny body almost merged with the dragon's magical energy, making her look incredibly cute and captivating, to the point of being irresistible. The smooth, tender and fragrant skin was as delicate as freshly peeled bamboo shoots, even the slightest movement would make your heart skip a beat. 2 little feet, pearly white with adorable pearl-like toenails, just like a string of beads. It was as smooth as gelatin, with a sweet, powdery fragrance. So gentle, soft, and indescribably marvelous. The enchanting, misty eyes resembled a state of half-sleep, neither awake nor asleep, neither intoxicated nor sober. Her clothes faded away, revealing her soft and pale waist and tender and smooth breasts. Together with her innocent and sweet voice, filled with both sweetness and sorrow, she sang with restraint and grace, causing even Princess Ain to blush and feel her heart race. Her body was gentle, even her sobbing voice was gentle. The bending of her snow-white and tender legs, the trembling of her slender body, and the sobbing sound of her young voice. Pafu! Pafu! Whether it was an illusion or not, Princess Ain heard a voice filled with pleasure and satisfaction. The voice seemed to come from inside the dragon egg. It seemed that the sacred dragon egg was very satisfied with Adley's hatching process. Lasting for 30 minutes, twice as long as Ain, it was the best proof. Chapter 10:30 We purchased, sister, how much longer until the baby hatches? After recovering slightly from her weak and weary state, Adley fearlessly touched the silver dragon egg with her fingertips. Ah woo! A cute and captivating sound came out of the little princess's cherry lips. Her little feet, so soft and tender, trembled with an irresistible charm. Adley, our words alone may not be enough. Ain struggled to take her sister away from the edge of the dragon egg. According to the records in the book, the correct method of hatching dragon eggs, even during the divine era, it was necessary to gather at least 100 pure and innocent maidens with special bloodlines, preferably from different races, to have a hope of hatching the weakest white dragon egg. This remnant from the divine era was built for that purpose, and even now, millions of years later, it still stands tall upon the earth. The buildings on the surface that were built at the same time as this remnant from the divine era have all been eroded by time and are almost completely gone. After Princess Ain learned the truth about the relic she was protecting, she understood even more the importance of the dragon clan to this tower. It is the only place capable of hatching the dragon eggs that have lost their mothers. She even wondered if the dragon clan had not completely perished and that one day they would return to this land, and this hatching tower would also experience a rebirth. How could this happen? Is my love not enough? I will work even harder to help. It must be said that the two sisters were surprisingly similar in many ways, and Adley also took the responsibility for the unsuccessful hatching of the dragon egg upon herself. She struggled to stand up, looking like she was going to attempt hatching the egg again. It's not your fault, we did our best. But, this is a dragon egg. Ayn still didn't say it, even to her closest sister, she kept the secret. This dragon egg doesn't belong to this world, and what hatches from it won't be just any baby dragon, but a beautiful, divine, and majestic silver dragon. The only secret she won't tell anyone, not even her sister Adley. Because, it's her promise with the silver dragon. To hatch a dragon egg, we alone are not enough. Ayn had to accept the reality. Whether it's her or Adley, who has even greater talent than her, they can't hatch this sacred silver dragon egg, even if they take turns. According to the instructions in The Proper Way to Hatch a Dragon Egg, a real female dragon needs to continuously use her body heat and love for a non-stop period of 24 hours to complete this difficult process. And the time she and Adley combined can't even reach an hour, and that's with the assumption that Adley's divine era bloodline is much better than hers. To ensure the continuous hatching process for 24 hours, you would need at least 48 girls with the same divine era bloodline as Adley. This is the most exceptional divine era bloodline on this continent, and you won't even find a second one, let alone 48. If it were her, it would probably take hundreds of people to carry out this project. But on this continent, there are only 2 pure and divine era bloodline girls, them alone. This is not the divine era. Where can we find so many pure girls with divine era bloodline to help with hatching? Even if we add up the remaining divine era bloodlines from the other continents, it still won't be enough to meet this requirement. So, there is only one solution left. Adley. Do you want to hatch this egg? Adley's eyes gradually became determined, showing a willpower that would never give up no matter what challenges they face. Adley really loves this egg. Setting aside their beloved teddy bear, Adley's eyes sparkled with stars. It was a love that couldn't be hidden, unique to children with their focus and wild imagination. For Adley, who grew up with fairy tales, the appearance of this dragon egg was like a dream. It's a dragon. It's a real giant dragon egg. Legend has it that since the divine era, there hasn't been a mysterious and powerful giant dragon like this, the protagonist of countless fairy tales. A dragon that kidnaps princesses and sets traps to make heroes suffer. The dragon that guides heroes and saves the world. A majestic dragon that soars freely in the sky. Regardless of which fairy tale, the presence of a dragon is overwhelming, even overshadowing the original protagonists of the story. Humans have many guesses about life they don't understand. Adley has always been interested in the stories of dragons, but there aren't many books about real dragons in the kingdom's library. The only book is the one Ayn opened, titled The Correct Method for Hatching Dragon Eggs. Adley wanted to open this book with a label saying it's forbidden for people under the age of 18 to read, but she has never succeeded. Even Ayn, after their parents fought in the final battle and gained complete control of the divine era's heritage, only then had the ability to open this book. The 2 sisters are still incredibly similar in this aspect. Well, we have to work hard then. Ayn stroked her younger sister's head, and the soft touch of her fingertips made her gaze become even gentler. Some things must be faced. With their father and mother gone, and the kingdom in turmoil, it's time to step up. If, on a night where they saw shooting stars streak across the sky, Ayn still had doubts and felt lost about the future, now she is filled with courage and ready to face all difficulties and dangers. Never give up until the final moment. Until the very end, we will never sacrifice easily. Now, there is nothing to be afraid of. Forbidden spell, that kind of thing doesn't exist, but let others misunderstand it. What exists here is something even more powerful and precious than a forbidden spell. The Empire's proud black technology, which can break through even the world barrier and come from the sky to this land, is nothing more than a child's plaything in front of the sacred silver dragon. The true new era is right here, right in front of her. As long as this dragon egg can be hatched, this world will definitely embrace a brand new dawn. Ayn has a lot of things she wants to say to the sacred silver dragon, a lot of knowledge she wants to learn, and all of this depends on hatching this sacred dragon egg. She is willing to pay any price for this goal. Even if we have to gather all the power in the country, we will not hesitate. Adley, from now on, you are the very first princess of the kingdom. I will become the queen. Chapter 1031. We purchased holding her little sister in her arms, and began to walk towards the spiral staircase of the tall tower. With each step, her eyes became more determined, and her grip on her sister's hand became stronger. From the moment she made the decision, Princess Ayn, who still had a little bit of a girlish nature, disappeared, praying to the stars for a miracle. The stars responded to her prayer, and she knew she had to make a change. Everything was for the great and sacred silver dragon. The automated staircase carried the two sisters towards the first floor of the tower. Soon, they reached the first floor of this ancient ruin. Ayn held her sister's hand and entered the long-unused dressing room. She dressed her little sister Adley in a brand-new white princess gown, while Ayn herself chose a long-unused formal dress, resembling a wedding gown with golden rose accents on the hem. This set of Western-style dresses was personally sewn by her mother, a magical dress prepared as one of the gifts for her wedding. It automatically fits her body and has a 3-level defense barrier, which can defend against most arrows and long-range attacks. Originally, this dress was intended to be worn on her wedding day. Her mother had once said with a smile, "When you can wear this dress, you will be the most beautiful bride in the world." "I'm sorry, Mother, I have disappointed you. I haven't been able to get married." Princess Ayn, who was only 14 years old, looked slightly melancholic as she gazed at her rose dress. The intertwining of gold and red was supposed to be the most splendid colors in the world, but now it carried a hint of sadness. Now, what she has to do is more important than getting married. Wearing this bridal gift represents her determination. "Adley, you don't need to say anything later. As long as you stay the way you are now, that's enough." Comforting her slightly nervous younger sister in a soft voice, Ayn tidied her hair and with a proud gaze, took the initiative to open the long-closed gates of the Divine Era Tower. The sealed Divine Era Tower was originally the final defense for the two sisters. Even if the Emperor's first magic army legion attacked the royal city, they could protect their last bit of dignity. But now, the fortress gate was opened by Ayn herself. Since a moment ago, she had been sending out some messages as the Divine Era Tower Guardian. Boom! In front of the slowly opening tower gate, the sisters were greeted by a mass of nobles and royalty kneeling on the ground. Duke Parbad, the last duke with the kingdom's intact territory. Count Gasper, the controller of the kingdom's commercial lifeline. Viscount Theon, the commander of the royal city's guard. All of the kingdom's major nobles and representatives of the royalty were almost all gathered here. It was these people who recently betrayed Princess Ayn and handed over the royal city to the First Imperial Magic Army Legion. Among them, Duke Parbad, the representative of the royalty, was Princess Ayn and Adley's uncle according to generation. His opinion is basically the same as the remaining royals' opinion. He is the spokesperson of the royal faction. If Princess Ayn and Adley were captured by the Empire, he would be theoretical first heir to the kingdom. Count Gasper represents the merchant faction. The cunning merchants, who are skilled at sensing the wind direction, had already noticed the signs of war. As soon as the battle between the Empire's first magic army legion and the royal knights ended, they couldn't wait to make their move. Finally, Viscount Theon, the elite of the noble faction, the youngest and most promising knight of the Empire, said to be only a step away from becoming a hero-ranked individual. He represents the military noble class. Representatives of the royal family, merchants, and nobles, the three major powers of the kingdom, all knelt down before Ayn and Adley as they walked out of the high tower. All of them had incredibly pale faces. No one could have expected that the kingdom, which appeared to be on the verge of defeat in everyone's eyes, still held such a terrifying trump card. That tower, which had stood in the heart of the royal city since the divine era, unexpectedly possessed such destructive power. In history, there was no record of the heritage of the divine era having such power. However, in history, the kingdom had never encountered such a desperate situation before. They were under attack, and even the previous king and queen, who were of the divine era bloodline, died in battle. Now, everyone is filled with fear. Whether it's Duke Parbad, the representative of the royal family, or Count Gasper, the representative of the merchants, or Viscount Theon, the representative of the nobles, they all came to the tower immediately to seek forgiveness after receiving Princess Adley's command. "Your Highness, please forgive my rudeness. We were too ignorant of the power of the divine era bloodline." Duke Parbad, who is almost 60 years old, suddenly had half of his hair turn white overnight. His once composed figure became trembling and unsteady. As a member of the royal family, he didn't awaken the power of the divine era bloodline. In the kingdom's laws, awakening the divine era bloodline was the highest privilege. No king had ever ruled without awakening the power of the divine era bloodline. The current first emperor of the empire was actually a genius who separated from the royal family. That member of the royal family was a rare and exceptional knight genius. His strength was even on par with the awakeners of the divine era bloodline of that generation. But because he didn't awaken the power of the divine era bloodline, he couldn't become the king of the kingdom. After defeating the king of that era, the talented knight fled with some loyal nobles and royals, and established the present empire. Compared to the kingdom that followed ancient traditions, the empire from the very beginning made it clear that divine era bloodline was not the first condition for inheriting the country. At the same time, the empire vigorously developed advanced technology and eventually gave birth to the present magic armor system. After several border conflicts, the combat power of the magic armor shocked the entire continent and made the empire overconfident. It boldly launched an invasion of the kingdom. Equipped with the new generation of magic armor, the Empire's first magic army legion, led by 3 titled knights, broke through all the kingdom's defenses in less than half a month, piercing the heart of the kingdom, the capital. The events that followed were witnessed by everyone here as part of history. Nuclear explosion. This was the almost unanimous judgment of both the kingdom and the empire, the only reasonable explanation found in the piles of history. The empire's first magic army legion, along with the entire empire with only 3 titled knights among its 9 members, instantly turned to ashes and dust. The person responsible for causing this tragedy and wiping out the first magic army legion from the map was undoubtedly the girl in the golden red dress, overlooking everyone from a high position. Princess Ayn, the first princess of the kingdom, renowned as a genius in divine era magic. Guardian of the kingdom's divine era heritage. "You have betrayed the country, betrayed me," said Ayn, making everyone shiver. Could it be that princess is about to initiate a bloody purge? Chapter 1032 We purchased, but I forgive you. With a sudden turn of events, just when they thought all hope was lost, a new opportunity presented itself. This perfectly described the feelings of the 3 representatives at that moment. Life has its ups and downs, and it's truly thrilling. Prior to receiving Princess Ayn's command to go to the tower, they had all left farewell letters. This is the price of betrayal. They have committed a huge mistake. Who could have imagined that the princess, who is only 14 years old in people's eyes, would actually possess the true power of the divine era heritage? The user of the forbidden spell called Nuclear Explosion was the most powerful warlock in the divine era, who destroyed the first magic army legion of the empire. Princess Ayn, who came out of the high tower, was covered in countless mysterious auras. From the moment the first magic army legion of the empire was obliterated by the forbidden spell Nuclear Explosion, Princess Ayn ceased to be just a talented warlock of the divine era bloodline in people's eyes. she leaped to become the top forbidden magic user on this continent. Even in the Divine Era period, a mage who could cast forbidden spells alone, even with the power of Divine Era heritage, could become a renowned superpower throughout the entire continent. Not to mention in the modern era after the decline of the magic tide, forbidden spell users are absolute destructive weapons. As long as the Divine Era heritage still stands, even the Empire would not dare to make any reckless moves. In fact, the Imperial spies they had been in contact with had brought news of peace talks. This war, since the complete annihilation of the First Magic Army Legion of the Empire, has basically come to an end. No one wanted to face the forbidden spell called Nuclear Explosion, which left nothing but ashes, and the First Magic Army Legion poured cold water on everyone. Even during the Divine Era, the Nuclear Explosion forbidden spell, which only had incomplete experimental records, appeared and made everyone feel deep fear from the bottom of their hearts. The central part of the nuclear blast completely melted the earth, destroying everything within the range of the shockwave, and the hot wind even blew onto the walls of the royal city, hundreds of kilometers away. If this scene had occurred not in the wilderness, but in a city of a certain country, or even in the capital, it would not have been just the complete annihilation of a few thousand soldiers from the Empire's First Magic Army Legion. The inevitable outcome was that millions of people, along with the entire city, turned to ash and smoke. It was not only General Ryder, the leader of the Empire's army, who broke into a cold sweat after receiving the data report on the nuclear blast. Anyone who saw this report would doubt their own eyes. Even during the Divine Era, there wasn't such an exaggerated forbidden spell, right? Isn't this something that should only exist in fantasy magic novels? However, this is real. The central area where the nuclear blast occurred is still inaccessible. Just the data collected from the areas devastated by the shockwave has already made countless scholars tremble in fear and doubt their testing tools. The power of a nuclear blast is incredibly terrifying. When Princess Aine walked out of the Divine Era Tower, holding Adley's hand, her identity had already changed drastically from her past. No one doubted whether she could inherit the country. As a rare forbidden spellcaster even in the Divine Era, her nuclear explosion forbidden spell had made her the supreme ruler of this continent. People could only marvel at how extraordinary the bloodline of the Divine Era was. The last intact relic of the Divine Era on the continent could truly be called the God Tower miracle. The current Princess Aine only needed one sentence to determine the life and death of everyone here. After all, whether it was Duke Parbad from the royal family, Count Gasper from the merchant class, or Viscount Shira from the nobles, they all made the same choice. The fact proved that they were terribly wrong. I know you are not bad people. I forgive you, but that doesn't mean I will pardon the mistakes you have made. After meeting the divine silver dragon, Princess Aine's view expanded from just the kingdom to the endless night sky above. Like all the Divine Era bloodline warlocks who dedicate their lives to the Divine Era Tower, she had been fascinated by the starry sky for a long time. Compared to the brief lives of humans, the mysteries contained within the stars were infinite. Generation after generation, the Divine Era bloodline warlocks followed the ancient tradition, and many of them, even after inheriting the title of Guardian, never set foot outside this continent's tallest building. For them, observing the stars in the sky and depicting the patterns of the night sky were more charming than anything else in this world. Throughout their lives, they immersed themselves in the starry sky. Many of them never married. The books filled with celestial records in the library tower were proof of their existence. Observing the stars, understanding them, and dreaming of a path to the world of the stars. People bound by the atmosphere of the earth desire wings more than anything else, wings that can take them out of this world and into the infinite and vast starry sky. Now, she has finally found her own wings and can fly freely, carrying her towards a broader world. Compared to her predecessors, Aine is fortunate because she has finally found that opportunity, the key that can change the world. For this wish. for the promise with the holy silver dragon. She was willing to forgive her betrayed loved ones, merchants, and nobles at any cost, as it was only the beginning of the plan. "I am going to be crowned as king," Ein said, word by word, expressing his decision. "That is only natural, your majesty." Our queen, Duke Parbad, representing the conservative faction of the royal family, was the first to kneel before Ein, offering his loyalty. "As our proud queen, possessing such power," he said sincerely. These words came from the heart. The strong are respected, that is an eternal truth. The empire was able to be established and attracted the allegiance of many branches of the royal family initially because the emperor, who was an unparalleled genius, defeated the king who had inherited the bloodline of the divine era. "We will definitely hold the grandest coronation ceremony on the continent, and all expenses will be covered by our merchant alliance." Count Gaspar wiped his sweat while wearing a flattering smile. "There is nothing in this world that money can't solve, and if there is, it means we don't have enough money." Facing Princess Ein, who possesses the forbidden spell of nuclear explosion, soon to be our queen, it is essential for us merchants to minimize losses. This is the way for us to survive. Under your radiance, the kingdom will enter a whole new era. All the nobles will support you, our great queen." Viscount Theon's eyes were filled with fanaticism. As the most outstanding knight of the noble faction, he admired strong individuals more than anyone else. Now, Ein truly became the strongest on the continent. "I will rebuild the empire's royal knights. The new royal knight order shall be called the Sacred Silver Dragon Knights." Chapter 1033 We purchased the Sacred Silver Dragon Knight Order. Shira looked at Princess Ein, who was about to become queen, with confusion. Whether it's a kingdom or an empire, it is not customary to add a prefix to knight orders. The empire's legions are named in a straightforward manner, such as the 1st Magic Army Legion, the 2nd Magic Army Legion, the 1st Infantry Corps, and the 2nd Infantry Corps. The knight orders in the kingdom are similar, with the Royal Knight Order being the strongest in the kingdom. Why would Princess Ein suddenly change the naming tradition of knight orders and establish a brand new Sacred Silver Dragon Knight Order? "Please let me be the first to join this new Royal Knight Order." Shira temporarily put aside the strange naming and eagerly volunteered to be the first to sign up. With his strength as a nearly hero-ranked knight, joining this new knight order would undoubtedly lead to important roles. This is also a crucial move for the noble faction. "I'm sorry, but that won't be possible." Princess Ein sadly shook her head as she looked at Viscount Shira, who was praised as the top talented knight among the nobles. "It's not about strength." After the Emperor's 1st Magic Army Legion wiped out the king and queen along with the Royal Knight Corps, Viscount Shira became one of the top experts in the kingdom. If they were to rebuild the Royal Knight Corps normally, Viscount Shira would definitely have a place, both from a political and strength standpoint. However, the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Corps she is about to establish is not your usual Knight Corps. "No, this can't be." Viscount Shira's face showed a stunned expression, unable to believe her ears. "It's not a problem even if I'm not the captain or the leader, I can join as a regular knight." After a few seconds of thinking, Viscount Shira thought it might be a problem with her noble representative status. She truly wanted to join this Holy Silver Dragon Knight Corps, unrelated to the political games behind it. She genuinely wanted to fight for the queen. "I'm sorry, it's not about strength or status, but about gender." Princess Ein shook her head, indicating her powerlessness. "Gender issue." Whether it was Viscount Shira, Duke Parbad, or Count Gaspar, they all had a shocked expression on their faces. "That's right, the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Corps only recruits girls under the age of 18 from the Royal Knight Corps. Except for the royal family with Divine Era bloodline, everyone else must be pure young girls. In other words, this is a group of young female knights." Ein bit her lip, not wanting to use this method unless absolutely necessary. Is this considered deceiving the world? No, she didn't lie, although the goal of creating the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order was actually to hatch a sacred silver dragon egg. But the goal of forming the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order is real, and this Knight Order will become the kingdom's strongest Knight Order. She had already felt it. Her physical and mental strength had increased after exchanging vital energy with the silver dragon egg. It was a miracle of life. And her younger sister, Adley, was even more remarkable. Her benefits from the silver dragon egg were greater, lasting twice as long. By extrapolating, the act of hatching the dragon egg itself has incredible miraculous effects, like enhancing innate abilities. Truly fitting for a sacred giant dragon from the stars. Merely getting close to the dragon egg and exchanging vital energy has yielded such great rewards. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that this egg is the spark of revolution for this world. So, it is necessary to form a team to hatch eggs. The Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order was established for this purpose. The Girls' Knight Order. Duke Parbad's beard went crooked. Even in the history of the Divine Era, there was no such rebellious record. A group of girls under the age of 18, how can they have the ability to form a Knight Order? Isn't this just child's play? Only pure girls under the age of 18 are eligible. Count Gasper instinctively began to assess Princess Ine's decision from a merchant's perspective and quickly discovered a lot of business opportunities. Is it limited to the kingdom? No, it is not limited to the kingdom's women. As long as they are under the age of 18, have purity, and, well, not ugly, they can participate. Based on her own and Adley's experience, as well as the records on the cover and back cover of the book, The Correct Way to Hatch Dragon Eggs, Princess Ine could easily infer the criteria for selecting people to hatch the eggs. It doesn't matter if they are not part of the human race. As long as they meet the requirements, whether they are land-dwelling or from the sea, everyone is eligible. From the back cover of that book, it's better to say that it's good to gather beautiful girls from different races. The dragon race is indeed a very magical race. Why? This is unrealistic. These are all girls who are not even 18 years old. How can they have any combat power? Viscount Shira couldn't help but shout loudly. The selection criteria for this so-called Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order is simply insulting to the path of knighthood he inherited. I am also not yet 18 years old. Do you think I have no combat power? Princess Ine looked coldly at the frustrated Viscount Shira. No, absolutely not. Viscount Shira, whose mind was overheating, finally remembered that the princess in front of him had recently used the nuclear explosion forbidden spell to annihilate the Empire's first magic army legion. The strongest mage in the continent, of the Divine Era, forbidden spells. This year, she is only 14 years old. But, princess, you are an exception among exceptions. How could those weak and powerless girls compare to a princess with a Divine Era bloodline? Exactly, it's absurd to gather a group of girls under 18 years old to form a Knight Order. Except for Count Gasper, who had hidden thoughts, both Duke Parbad from the royal faction and Viscount Shira from the noble faction thought Ine's decision was hasty. So, what if I say that I have a way to let these girls obtain some of the Divine Era's power? Watching Duke Parbad and Viscount Shira vehemently opposing, Ine finally dropped the biggest bomb. What? This is impossible. Duke Parbad shouted in astonishment. Impossible. The power of the Divine Era has long ago. Viscount Shira also yelled. In their understanding, the power system of the Divine Era had already collapsed. Towards the end of the Divine Era, people discovered that the magic tide started to decline. They used every means, even breaking taboos, but couldn't change this trend. Now, Princess Ine was actually saying she wanted to rebuild the Knight Order of the Divine Era. Can this be possible? Can this be possible? Why not? Princess Ein smiled and extended her snow-white hand, pointing towards the starry sky, which appeared as a towering castle to others. The power of miracles has awakened. The gasps of Duke Parbad and Viscount Shira suddenly became urgent. Their gazes towards the Divine Era Tower became intensely passionate. Chapter 1034 We purchased the power of the Divine Era was believed to be impossible to reappear in this era, like a legendary power. It is said that during that ancient era, the number of people who reached the hero rank on this continent once approached nearly 4 digits. In the kingdom of the Divine Era's knights, there were always over 100 hero-ranked knights. Furthermore, during the final battle of the Divine Era, legend was born that symbolized ultimate power in this world. Although it was only a brief moment, this world truly experienced the power of a legend. It was considered the last hope of the Divine Era, a miracle that shone like a fading light before the complete decline of the magic tide. In modern times, there are not even 100 hero-ranked experts, let alone over 100. There are only around a dozen or 20 in the entire continent, most of whom are descendants of the Divine Era bloodline. Similar to the first emperor of the empire, who was an unparalleled genius, even though they couldn't truly awaken the bloodline of the Divine Era, the blood of the Divine Era descendants still possessed extraordinary power. The hero-ranked experts in the entire continent can mostly trace their origins back to a figure from the Divine Era. The power of bloodline that was nurtured during the peak of the magic tide, like ancient heroes in the form of gods, was the most prosperous and flourishing era of this world. The people of that era built one magnificent miracle after another, and some of them still operate according to unfathomable rules even millions of years later. Among the most famous and perfect Divine Era structures on this continent is the Tower of the Gods behind Princess Ein at this moment. If there is a place in this world where humans who have lost their Divine Era powers can awaken the power of their ancestors again, without a doubt, it is here, this Divine Era Tower that has stood in the center of the royal city for millions of years without falling. Your Highness, is what you're saying true? Parbad's wrinkled face was about to split open, with some kind of fanatic ambition seeking revenge in this aging body. For the traditionalists who advocate monarchy, regaining the power of the Divine Era is something that everyone dreams of. Can the power of the Divine Era really be revived? Viscount Shira's breathing became heavy. Among the newly risen aristocrats who worship power, there is also no one who would refuse the power from the Divine Era. That power, like a hero from a myth, was considered an impossible fantasy until the nuclear explosion forbidden spell appeared. But now, Princess Ein tells them that she will rebuild the kingdom's first royal knight order and name the newly formed knight order the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order. This Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order is limited to pure young girls under the age of 18, regardless of their race or background, and it will restore the glorious power of the Divine Era. Yes, we will surely make this miracle happen. I don't need to deceive you, this is the dawn of our era. Princess Ein looked firmly at the representatives from 3 different powers. From now on, this news will probably spread across the continent quickly. People may doubt if it's true, but once the effect of the silver dragon egg is proven, it will cause a huge wave throughout the entire continent. The power of the Divine Era is something even the Empire would never give up on. Other northern kingdoms will also send people over. The newly established Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order will definitely include a large number of people from other countries. This is her goal. In order to hatch the dragon egg, she needs to gather the power of the entire continent. If the power of this continent is not enough, then she must spread this news to other continents as well. She couldn't easily gather hundreds of young girls with pure bloodlines, like in the correct method for hatching dragon eggs. But it doesn't matter, the Holy Silver Dragon Egg she wants to hatch has a special power that is not recorded in that book. If we don't have a Divine Era bloodline, then we'll create it ourselves. If there are not enough young girls in this country, then let other countries also help. The Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order was established for this purpose, and its mission is much greater than anything in this country. I will go back and inform all the branches of the royal family. Duke Parbad stood up straight, and his quick and steady pace was hard to imagine for a man in his 60s. I have several nieces who meet the requirements. I will notify them to come to the capital. Why am I not? Viscount Shira looked disappointed. Why doesn't this world have a magic potion that can make you younger while changing gender at the same time? If there is one, even if it's a poisonous potion that will decrease his own lifespan, he would drink it without hesitation. The power of the divine era, that is the power that everyone in this world dreams of. Even the first emperor of the empire, who was touted as the strongest knight since the divine era, would definitely make the same choice if given the opportunity. For this world that once experienced the glorious divine era, the magic and bloodline power born in that era are the cornerstone of civilization. Even the magic armor that the empire is currently studying and building is based on the basic principles that were developed at the end of the divine era. After the representatives of the monarchy and the nobility hurriedly left, Count Gaspar, the representative of the merchants, stayed behind, smiling with flattery as he looked at Princess Aine in front of him. Your Majesty, if we don't consider race or background, then nationality should not be a problem either. This is the great opportunity that Viscount Gaspar discovered. Whether for the kingdom or for this continent, the yet-to-be-established Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order will change history. As a merchant, he sensed an unprecedented opportunity in it. Yes. Even girls from the Empire, other countries, or even other continents would be fine. As long as I pass the assessment of the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order, I will unlock the power of the relic. Princess Aine looked at Count Gaspar with a meaningful gaze. It seemed that the merchant had the most sensitive nose and quickly smelled the scent of opportunity. Oh. After confirming that Princess Aine's recruitment order truly had no restrictions on nationality, race, or background, Count Gaspar's face smiled like a blooming flower. Now, he had to join forces with colleagues from various countries, because this time the cake was really too big, no individual business association could handle it. He could already imagine that, starting from now, the pure and beautiful girl under the age of 18 would become the most sought-after commodity on this continent, and even more than that. Chapter 1035 We purchased, however, forcing it is not allowed, otherwise it won't pass the assessment of the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order. Princess Aine felt sorry for what she had to do next. It's likely that girls on this continent who meet the conditions for hatching will be drawn in. No one can resist the temptation of the divine era's power. It's very regretful, but sacrifices must be made for the new era of this world. As the queen of the kingdom, she was already mentally prepared to be called countless names in the future. So, what are the requirements for the test? Count Gaspar calculated the interests involved and quickly found one profitable route after another. The power of the divine era, promised by the newly emerged and only forbidden spellcaster on the continent, in itself was worth a fortune. In order to gain the power of the divine era, all the girls who meet the conditions will have to come here, whether they want to or not. Just look at the behavior of Duke Parbad and Viscount Shira earlier. Even Duke Parbad, who is of noble rank, and Viscount Shira, who is a quasi-hero ranked knight, couldn't control themselves, let alone others. Moreover, for those underage girls who meet these conditions, this is not a bad thing. Even if they were reluctant at first, their fathers, mothers, and relatives will make them come here regardless. The royal and noble part is off limits for us merchants, but as for the rest, the common-born women and the non-human races not under any country's jurisdiction, they are fair game. The potential and opportunities to be gained here are enormous. Just imagine, Count Gaspar would feel a rush of excitement. This yet-to-be-established Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order is destined to become a battleground for countless forces. Soon you will know, Aine said, looking at the tall tower behind him. Once this plan starts, no one can stop it, including herself. Just as Princess Ain expected, she was going to form the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order, and the news about this order reclaiming the power of the divine era spread throughout the continent in just a few days, with a tendency to expand beyond the continent. The impact of this news was even greater than Princess Ain's coronation ceremony, causing a stir in all the countries of the continent. The royal family, nobles, and merchants of the kingdom rushed to send their eligible young girls to the capital city, waiting for the upcoming assessment of the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order. At this moment, General Ryder, the highest commander of the invading war from the Empire, looked at the newly crowned Queen Ain with a strange expression. "Queen Ain, are you really determined to do this?" Due to the complicated relationship between the Empire and the kingdom, General Ryder was actually Duke Parbad's cousin and Ain's elder. The war between the Empire and the kingdom never affected the common people because the royal families on both sides are actually one family. The only difference is that the Emperor of the Empire pursues black technology of the new era, while the kingdom has always adhered to tradition for millions of years. In the eyes of the Empire, the royal family of the kingdom is like ancient relics that refuse to change, while in the eyes of the kingdom, the Empire is a rebellious group who goes against tradition. But even so, the royal families on both sides continue to intermarry in order to maintain the power of their bloodline. This is a unique phenomenon in this world. Yes, I will establish a brand new knight order called the Divine Era. No one can stop me. With the sacred silver dragon as her backing, Ain has the courage to face the whole world. In order to fulfill her promise with the silver dragon, she didn't hesitate to lie to the entire world. However, as long as everyone believes that this lie is true, then it is no longer a lie. Just like how she was believed to have casted a forbidden spell that caused a nuclear explosion, the not yet established Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order is destined to bring about change in this world. "Oh, you've really grown up, Ain." Ryder looked at Princess Ain, now she's the queen, with overwhelming courage. There was a time when the little girl had grown to a level that even the vast empire feared. The title of Divine Era Forbidden Spellcaster, the ruler of the nuclear explosion forbidden spell, has become Queen Ain's exclusive title. People now call the new ruler of the kingdom Nuclear Blast Queen. Because of her presence, the three major legions of the Empire have completely retreated to their original borders, and there will be no invasion plans for a long time. Her existence represents the unimaginable ultimate power of this era. With such power, one can truly do whatever they want. If that nuclear explosion forbidden spell could be unleashed outside the kingdom, even the Empire would be powerless. The strategic deterrence of this power is truly terrifying. So, what exactly is the assessment for the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order? The main information General Ryder needed to know when he rushed overnight to negotiate with Queen Ain. The power of the Divine Era, the Empire cannot resist this temptation. That is, the power called love. Ain had a melancholy expression on her face. "Only as a last resort, I really don't want to use this method. My sister said, it's love. With love, we can gain strength." Adley flipped through the book The Correct Way to Hatch Dragon Eggs, while secretly telling Count Gasper, who had found himself in a sneaky way. Love? Count Gasper sweated profusely, never expecting that love would be the key to passing the assessment. How should they cultivate it? Would it be better to choose young ones with naturally gentle personalities? We need love, lots and lots of love. Adley also worried about how to have more love. She didn't understand herself how to love the egg more. It was a mysterious field for her, still being young. "Gasper, do you have any books that are restricted to adults, like this one?" After thinking for a while, Adley found the only clue. Sister said that the key to hatching dragon eggs is found in this book. Books that are restricted to those over 18. I have them here. Count Gasper, the kingdom's top merchant, had all kinds of goods, including books that minors are not allowed to read. After all, it is one of the needs of humans. As a merchant, as long as he can make money, he will sell anything. Restricted books are just a piece of cake. However, when he saw the cover of the book in Adley's hands, he suddenly broke out in a cold sweat. Wait, is the princess asking for a book of the same level as this one? It has to be as good-looking as this book. Adley looked at Count Gasper with an innocent smile. This. Chapter 1036 we purchased, This is the original book from the Divine Era. Gasper sweat profusely as he carefully observed the cover of Princess Adley's book. Big mistake, a really big mistake. Never in a million years would anyone have thought that the book Princess Adley casually pulled out would be a priceless original from the Divine Era. Any book that has survived from the Divine Era until now is rare, and considering the artistic value of the cover, it is a masterpiece even in the Divine Era's art peak. The lines, composition, and colors in this book make the adult books in his trade guild look like child's doodles in comparison. Truly, the oldest royal family continued from the Divine Era, even the educational books for the princess are such precious treasures. Don't you have it? Adley appeared extremely disappointed. Books symbolize knowledge. Inside books, there are countless answers to questions. The book is the embodiment of wisdom. Sister Ain always tells her so and recommends many books for her to read. This book was also brought out by Sister Ain. No. How could it not be there? As a merchant, Gasper felt that his reputation was facing the biggest crisis ever. Don't underestimate the importance of fulfilling Princess Adley's desire to read a book. If this opportunity is missed, there may not be a second chance in this lifetime. To be associated with Princess Ain, who has been hailed as the nuclear blast queen, is an opportunity that many great merchants on the continent dream of. If he didn't regularly offer rare candies as tribute to Princess Adley, he would never have the opportunity to be part of this rare chance. He is simply a representative elected by the kingdom's merchant association. There are several influential merchants within the kingdom who are more powerful than him. If he dares to say, no, here, it would be the end of his career. How could it be possible to not have it? It's just an 18 forbidden book from the Divine Era, and it's the highest level of artistic masterpiece. As a merchant, one must never utter the words no for any item that exists in this world. I'll bring it tomorrow. Gasper wiped his sweat while quickly searching his mind for relevant information. I want to draw very beautiful pictures, like the ones with many little girls. Adley innocently showed Gasper the cover of The Correct Way to Hatch Dragon Eggs. The colorful and lively images of pure and innocent girls made Gasper feel even more pressure. This art style is definitely one of the best masters, even during the Divine Era. It's going to be a big expense. There's no choice, this is the request of Nuclear Blast Queen's sister, Princess Adley, the kingdom's first heir. He had no right to say no. On the other side, Ain and General Ryder signed a series of post-war treaties. The Empire completely gave up all the benefits of this war, fully withdrew their troops from the kingdom, and actively compensated for the kingdom's losses, without mentioning the complete destruction of the Empire's first magic army legion. This is the deterrent power of nuclear explosions. Even though the Empire's main magic armored legion is still intact, with only the loss of their elite first magic army legion, and the second and third legions with the most mass-produced machines waiting on the border. However, the war has already come to an end. From this perspective, it can be said that the kingdom won the war and forced the Empire to sign an unfair treaty, which can be called humiliating. After possessing the ultimate weapon of nuclear explosion, as long as Ain remains in power, it seems unlikely that the Empire will be able to launch a second invasion in their lifetime, unable to solve this problem. The era ultimately belongs to you young people, said General Ryder, who personally signed a series of treaties that can be called a shame for the Empire, anticipating the arrival of a new era. The revival of the forbidden spell of the Divine Era. The establishment of the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order. The widespread use of the Empire's magic armor. All of this made him, who had been on the battlefield for most of his life, feel unfamiliar. Whether it is the magic armor or the appearance of the ultimate forbidden spell, it will completely change the form of warfare. In this case, the Empire's first magic armor completely outpaced other traditional armies that relied on cavalry and infantry coordination. These armies were also new armies supported by magical weapons in the war. They were the main forces that built the reputation of General Ryder, who was an extraordinary leader. They had steam tanks and city attack machines, which were the most advanced war weapons 10 years ago. In the wars with several northern countries, General Ryder took advantage of these weapons and expanded the Empire's territory by a third. The war against the kingdom was supposed to be the decisive battle for the Empire's unification of the continent, so it was entrusted to General Ryder, who was recognized as the most outstanding army commander. Who would have thought that a sudden nuclear explosion from the sky would completely change the situation of the entire continent? The power of the forbidden spell during the Divine Era surpassed everyone's imagination. It was a power that was even more crazy than what was recorded. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to describe it as a power that could destroy everything. On his journey to the royal city for negotiations, General Ryder only stopped at the area of the nuclear explosion and witnessed the breathtaking scene with his own eyes. That was a terrifying world that could not be described in words. Starting from where the Empire's first magic army corps used to be stationed, all the way to the horizon, everything was burned and destroyed. An area of over several tens of kilometers turned into scorched earth under the power of the nuclear explosion. There was no trace of any intelligent beings left. Looking down from the rising balloons, the central area of the nuclear explosion turned into a huge vortex-shaped basin. Anyone who saw this scene would feel their own insignificance. The Empire's first magic army legion was unfortunate. They couldn't even resist and were wiped out by this power from the earth. The 3 titled knights were no different from the others in the legion against this power. They were also lucky to witness the terrifying forbidden spell power, which was once thought to be a fantasy, even during the Divine Era. In the span of 10 years, this world has undergone tremendous changes. General Ryder once believed that the Empire's technology represented the most advanced power in the world, the evolution of civilization. But now, the kingdom informs the Empire that the glory of the Divine Era's power has not disappeared. The ultimate power of a nuclear explosion can instantly annihilate even the Empire's strongest legion armed with black technology. So, is the Empire prepared as I requested? Queen Ayn, emitting immense pressure, questioned General Ryder. Similarly, General Ryder, who was in a disadvantaged position, had no right to say no. Chapter 1037 We purchased, as you wish, Your Majesty the Great Queen. The establishment of the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order, the Empire will also contribute. Under the roof, people have to lower their heads. When the Empire had the upper hand, it could easily make all 3 major forces of the kingdom betray the royal family, even agreeing in advance to give up the royal family's last Divine Era bloodline and surrender the city. Similarly, when the kingdom played its ultimate trump card, the nuclear explosion, the Empire had no choice but to swallow its pride and agree to a series of unfair demands proposed by Queen Ayn. They fully supported the establishment of the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order and allocated most of the war reparations to this group. This is the most crucial part of the post-war treaty. General Ryder didn't understand why Ayn was so obsessed with establishing the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order, even at the cost of giving up more political and military benefits that could be obtained. The breached border fortress, the political compromises made by the Empire, and even the marriage alliances that the royal family favored, all seemed immature. By the standards of a qualified politician and a queen of a nation, Ayn was completely unqualified. However, no one had the right to criticize her or change her decisions. No matter how strange and unreasonable this decision may seem, it is still true. Because she is the queen who possesses the ultimate forbidden spell, never seen before in this continent. Her authority has been unwavering since the moment the first magic army legion of the Empire was completely destroyed. Bluntly speaking, even if she were a tyrant, people would have to endure it. And when it comes to forming a Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order, it goes without saying. Her authority is equivalent to the founder of the Empire, the Genius Knight Emperor. Her will is the absolute will of the kingdom, which must not be disobeyed. It can even greatly influence the Empire. It seems there is nothing she cannot obtain. It is not completely impossible for her to become the Emperor of the Empire. If she could marry one of the royal family members of the Empire. General Ryder, out of habit, deduced the future from a political perspective and arrived at a result that was difficult for even him to believe, but still reasonable. After all, the Empire and the Kingdom are just different branches of the same family. Even in this fierce war, both sides agreed not to harm civilians, because it was important for both sides to protect their property. The reason why the three major forces in the kingdom betrayed was because the Empire promised to ensure the safety of their property and families after the war. If the Empire wins, they will inherit the rightful rule of the Divine Era and achieve their ambition of uniting the continent. If the kingdom wins, it proves that the bloodline of the Divine Era is still unshakable and they will remain the dominant country of the continent. The essence of this war is the battle for the Divine Era crown, codenamed Crown War. When the Empire had the upper hand in the war, the loyal knights of the royal family in the kingdom were completely wiped out. Apart from a couple of kittens, only 2 princesses remained hiding in the Divine Era Tower. No one could have imagined that the sacred crown recognized by the continent would end up being worn by Princess Ayn, who was not even 14 years old. With her own strength alone, she completely determined the outcome of this war. Even General Ryder, who takes pride in the Empire's advanced technology, felt immense pressure in front of the Queen of the nuclear explosion. The sense of oppression he felt facing a field beyond his comprehension was unprecedented. Neither this world or this continent was prepared for the arrival of a Divine Era magic mage. This power, which clearly only exists in legendary stories, is rare even during the Divine Era. At this moment, before him stands a warlock who can rival the heroes of mythical times. Then, the contract is complete. Ayn's dominance overwhelmed General Ryder, who was not only her elder but also the top-ranked general on the continent. Once upon a time, this general was one of the heroes she admired. In battles against the northern countries, his series of decisions maximized the advantages of the new type of weapons, achieving results that shocked the entire continent. At that time, she never imagined that this elder would become her enemy. Even less did she expect that she would defeat the top-ranked general on the continent and force him to sign a series of unequal treaties with the Empire. Everything is for the Great Silver Dragon. From now on, please start sending suitable candidates for the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order, Empire. I know, you have a daughter, and the Empire also has many eligible princesses and duchesses. As a member of the royal family, Ayn is very familiar with the outstanding girls from the opposite empire. The 7th, 8th, 9th, and 13th princesses must also come. The daughters of the 3 northern dukes should not be absent either. As Ayn listed familiar names one after another, each name made General Ryder's face turn even more sour, but he reluctantly nodded. Are these girls now going to be treated as part of the Empire's compensation to the kingdom and be held hostage? This kind of practice is in line with the rules of the Divine Era. Keeping princesses and princes of defeated and vassal countries as hostages in the court of the suzerain country is a common method. However, why does this group called the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order only accept females, especially girls under the age of 18? Can this Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order really retrieve the power of the Divine Era? After sending away the suspicious General Ryder, Ayn breathed a sigh of relief. As a queen, she had many immature aspects, but luckily she didn't reveal too many flaws. No one would have ever guessed that she was not a forbidden spellcaster of the divine era at all, but a spokesperson with a more powerful background than the forbidden spellcasters of the divine era. Promise, we will definitely fulfill it. In the name of the mighty silver dragon, even if we have to sacrifice the entire world, we will do it without hesitation. It was an unwavering determination that nobody could attain, a path chosen by Ayn as the stargazer, surpassing her royal identity. Perhaps this path is full of difficulties, but no matter what kind of obstacles, she has decided to surpass and break them. The Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order will definitely change this world. Adley, you are the king of this world. Whispering softly, Ayn showed a gentle smile. As the older sister, she was only temporarily taking the position as the queen of this kingdom. The true queen of this world is Adley, her younger sister who possesses the blessing of the silver dragon, even though she hasn't grown up yet. Because she is a child loved by the great silver dragon. Chapter 1038 we purchased with a command from Queen Ayn. From the Empire's dukes to the common merchants, everyone knew about the establishment of the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order. The entire kingdom was boiling with unprecedented excitement. Since the Empire invaded, the entire kingdom's dignity has been trampled on and abused. The oldest country on the continent, the inheritance of the Divine Era country, became a joke overnight in the face of the Empire's overwhelming absolute power. It was only when the devastating forbidden curse appeared that people once again realized the depth of the ancient Divine Era country. The name of the Nuclear Blast Queen shook the entire continent overnight, even gaining fame overseas. Ayn completely ascended to the divine realm. The Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order she wanted to establish was destined to become the focus of the entire continent. For a while, any underage girl who met the conditions became highly sought after and cherished. Noble girls, accompanied by their fathers and brothers, formed a massive delegation heading towards the capital of the kingdom. Along the way, they continued to recruit more members, quickly creating several delegations with thousands of people. The merchant alliances led by Gasper went deep into remote villages and even the wilderness, using all means to form contracts with ancient tribes and even different races, gathering various underage girls. Unlike the diplomatic missions that took the upper route, the merchant groups took the lower or even outlandish routes. After all, our nuclear explosion queen herself said that race and background are not limited. In order to find suitable candidates, they went up the mountains, down the seas, and even dug underground. They visited every intelligent race they could find. Even if the height exceeds 3 meters, as long as the females are trolls and under the age of 18, they meet the requirements. Even if they are less than 1 meter tall, as long as they are pocket-sized beauties from the dwarf race, they are also qualified. Take them all. What? A rare mermaid girl? Take her, even if it means spending all our fortune. Well, they may lack a bit in culture, but these underage girls from different races definitely meet the requirements of the nuclear explosion queen in terms of both figure and appearance. In order to sign contracts with these rare exotic races and make these girls willingly go to the capital, the merchants spared no effort and offered huge sums of money. The commercial activity called girl trade became the obsession of all the merchants on this continent for a while. In order to obtain the recognition of Queen Ayn, who possesses the forbidden spell of nuclear explosion, both the nobles and the merchants went all out. Even the high and mighty royal families sent many eligible princesses to Ayn. If Ayn were a prince instead of a princess, it would have been a grand occasion for the whole continent to form alliances. This is the awe that this land has for ultimate power, and its response to the nuclear explosion forbidden spell. Queen Ayn, who possesses the forbidden spell power of the divine era, can truly do as she pleases. Princess. Princess. We have goods. Count Gaspar joyfully held on to his precious treasure, which he had finally managed to buy from an ancient family, and rushed into the palace. What goods? With a flushed face, Adley looked at the book, The Correct Method for Hatching Dragon Eggs, and interacted with the sacred silver dragon egg a few times, which made her body even more sensitive. These past few days, the two sisters would go to the enormous bath where the dragon eggs were placed in the late hours of the night, carrying out the blushing and heart-pounding task of hatching. Now, even her every breath seems to carry a faint trace of dragon spiritual energy. The same symptoms happened to her sister Aine as well, although they were slightly milder. That's the book you need, princess. Being a good merchant, it is important to find a way to get whatever the customer needs and sell it for a good price. Moreover, this customer is none other than the kingdom's first princess, the future queen-to-be, possibly the next nuclear blast queen. Gaspar is giving it his all. Ah! Have you found it? Compared to her initial ignorance, Adley seems to have grasped some things that were not taught in the textbooks lately, although it's still somewhat unclear to her. When having those intense conversations with the dragon egg, occasionally, a mysterious voice saying, Pafu. Pafu, can be heard. Every time she hears that voice, a sense of pleasurable embarrassment sweeps over Adley, causing her to involuntarily make cute sounds. Yes. You will surely be satisfied, princess. I believe these few books are just like the one in the princess's hands, created by the same illustrator. Count Gaspar has to admit that finding original copies of the same caliber as the princess's book, from the restricted Divine Era, was much more difficult than he imagined. These rare originals are also of the highest artistic value, probably only a handful of them in the entire continent. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to call them treasures of the world. This time, he had to use Queen Aine's name in order to successfully purchase these few originals that have been kept in the library of an ancient family since the Divine Era. It is said that these books all come from a short-lived market in the Divine Era, and there are no copies at all. The reason is that they need to use special paper and illustration style to depict this level of artwork, and nobody knows how they are made. Those who tried to copy these illustrations all failed, as if there is some kind of magic in these illustrations that humans cannot understand. In other words, these few books, plus the one in Princess Adley's hands, are unique and can be considered as artistic treasures from the Divine Era. I want it. Adley raised her little hand. As the princess wishes. Count Gaspar happily handed over these original books from the Divine Era to the excited little princess. Adley carefully picked up one of them and saw the title, The Shameless and Lustful Demon King and the Stories That 1,000 Princesses Must Tell. Wow, this seems different from The Proper Way to Hatch Dragon Eggs. However, the cover is truly beautiful, even emitting a faint glow, completely spotless. Yes, it's a book with this kind of artistic style, originally called Divine Era, filled with mystical power. The covers feature lovely girls, and they are not wearing clothes. What's more, this is actually a series. The Shameless and Lustful Demon King and the Story of 1,000 Sisters That Must Be Told. Yes, is it an illusion? It feels like the art style has become cuter and more alluring. The Shameless and Lustful Demon King and the Story of 1,000 Daughters That Must Be Told. Wow, this cover looks very similar to Adley. Chapter 1039 we purchased late at night, in a room in the God Tower. Under the soft crystal light, Princess Adley finally learned things that she should and shouldn't learn from the 3 stories that I had to tell her and XX had to say. Her mother, sister, and textbook didn't teach her these things. After finishing the first book, The Demon King and the Stories the 1,000 Princesses Had to Say, Adley's little face turned red with embarrassment, almost wanting to bury itself in the ground. So, this is what intimacy means. It means that what her sister, and the dragon egg did was so close. The princess has a beautiful face, a clear voice, and elegant dresses. Every morning when the princess wakes up, she faces the sun and sings, praising the happiness in the world. The princess hopes to bring happiness to everyone and become a princess loved by all. At that time, she didn't yet realize that she would encounter such misfortune. On the day when the pale moon and the ocean meet, the demon king resurrected in this world. The princesses on the mainland will face the tragic fate of becoming sacrifices. The scary monster, Demon King, can only be appeased by offering a beautiful princess as sacrifice, or else he will bring forth the calamity that devours lives. Oh, the poor princesses! Even though they know they won't return, they can only accept such a tragic fate. Like a butterfly in a storm. The young girl's innocent and naive voice read a passage from the book, The Story of Demon King and 1,000 Princesses, accompanied by exquisite and magnificent illustrations, creating an immersive atmosphere. Filled with anticipation, Adley continued reciting the selected parts of the book that made their heart race. I know she's my sister and it's wrong, it's a crime, but I just can't control myself. Ah, look at the reflection in this mirror. How clouded and hopeless my eyes are. The younger sister gently lowered her head and whispered words full of magic into my ear. Brother, I like you. She cried and told me, while feeling uneasy, that she, like me, cannot control her emotions. In this way, no one can separate us. We will always be together. Wow! Woohoo! It turns out, there are situations where even a little sister can be together with her big brother, but this brother has too many little sisters. When Adley finally opened the book Demon King and 1,000 Unforgettable Stories, not only her face but even her ears turned bright red. Being completely clueless about these things, she had no immunity to the love stories described in the original Divine Era. The 3 books in the original Divine Era's Demon King series record different stories, sometimes in the first person, sometimes in the third person, but it seems that the protagonist is always the same person, the Demon King who always has interactions with 1,000 girls. The feeling of being immersed in the story can be experienced by anyone who reads this book, thanks to the author's delicate writing style that perfectly matches the illustrations in the book. On the rippling water's surface, the young girl's snow-white feet stepped in the ripples. Her feet were small and delicate, almost as small as they could fit in a palm, soft and smooth. Hello, my. Is this a dream? If this is a dream, please don't let me wake up. Sweet whispers reached her ears as the girl gently lifted her head. Her snow-white skin radiated a jade-like brilliance in the sunlight, giving off a sense of sacredness and invulnerability. In the warm hot spring, her snow-white toes were like little cat paws, shy and adorable. The ripples created on the water's surface by her footsteps were so captivating. She ran up to the person, closed her eyes obediently, with a happy smile, and puckered her little mouth, giving a kiss. The best. The young girl offered her sweet kiss, then stood on her tiptoes, twirling to the melody of a fairy, her petite body moving gracefully like a slowly blooming water lily. Can't stop anymore. What can't stop, Adley? The door of the room was gently opened, and Ayn, who had finished dealing with the troublesome matters, looked at Adley, who was reading with a puzzled expression. With that enthusiastic tone, intoxicating emotion, and rosy cheeks, was she reading a famous world literature? Ah, big sister. Adley let out a miserable sound as if caught in the act and hurriedly stuffed the 3 original Divine Era books into her drawer. I'm done for. I'm in big trouble. If Big Sister Ayn finds out, Adley won't be able to go to heaven. Yes, it's the song of love that can't stop, Big Sister. Shall we also go to hatch some eggs tonight? Adley looked at her big sister Ayn with clear, pitiful eyes filled with tears. It seems that big sister Ayn hasn't noticed her secretly looking at those Divine Era originals. Even she knew that these 3 hidden books couldn't be discovered by her sister, the content of these books was too daring. I just learned a way to deepen love. It's an old folk song. Ain is a very traditional princess. She received standard ladylike education before becoming a queen. What the story that the Demon King and XX must tell, or whatever banned book, has absolutely nothing to do with the traditional unladylike Princess Ain. She taught her younger sister how to learn the ways of love, naturally in a ladylike manner. What the Demon King and XXX, Ain hasn't read a single book, and she doesn't even know that such a divine era ever existed. In the spacious bathroom, the sisters began to sing together. It was a love ballad that had been handed down for millions of years, a wisdom crystallization from the divine era. Once dreams wandered in the embrace of the night, my beloved, help me see the path ahead. If this is destiny, let's walk it together. In my eyes, you are like sunlight shining through the leaves, giving me the courage to live and a smile filled with happiness. In you, I feel a connection that surpasses everything else. I can smile under the sky because you are by my side. Singing a song born because of you is proof of my love, believing that this feeling can reach your heart. Cute, happy, sad, and worried, these all make up the melody of love. The sweet, joyful, sad, painful, even regretful, and anxious, are all melodies of love. Will my sister notice? In any case, hide these strange divine era origins, there might be a need for them in the future. Who wrote these bad divine era origins? Why are they all titled Demon King and? This Demon King is shameless, completely lacking morals. Chapter 1040 We purchased how much time has passed. Yunshi's consciousness is in an ambiguous and hazy world, unlike any world he has experienced before. There was no bonfire to light up hope. There was no towering tower that connected the sky and the earth. Here, it was like a lonely island in the vast ocean of stars, located at the center of the endless starry sky. However, this island was constantly torn apart by 4 different forces. It swayed north, south, and west, with only the eastern star domain remaining calm while the other 3 star domains reached out with their dark hands towards this island. Among them, the first to gain an advantage was the silver chain from the northern god's domain. It seemed like a delicate chain, but it was deeply rooted in this island. It seemed that this chain was forged for the purpose of binding everything, whether it be souls or flesh, to this drifting island in the void. Next, there was a ribbon that connected from the western god's domain. The vibrant ribbon interwove into a beautiful rainbow of 7 colors. Although it didn't cling to the silver chain in the north, it didn't show any intention of letting go either. As time passed, the colors of the rainbow dove deeper into the island, as if determined to find this island from the endless starry sky, no matter how long it took. As for the southern region of God's domain, it was falling behind in the 3-way struggle. This star domain, which was supposed to have the most powerful force with 2 creators, for some reason, whether it was the curse of the Lord of Chaos or the evil mark left by the Nameless Lady, didn't display the expected strength. Their power, in this starry sky, seemed to be weakened by some invisible rules. The fate of this drifting island can probably be described as the 3 nations standing together. Even though he was the owner of this island, Yunshi could not choose his own destiny. Can I only choose one for now? Yunshi sighed as he watched the island carrying his body and soul heading towards a fragmented end. Yes, Master, this is called fighting poison with poison. First, borrow the power from one side, overpower the other 2, and then escape. Meyer took on the role of a competent commentator, telling Yunshi about the current situation. With the help of the stars, she used her special ability as a star spirit to activate the star trial. She chose a certain god's domain where the 4 creators couldn't interfere. If the trial was successful, Yunshi, who is the star child, would be free to roam the wide sea and fly in the sky, escaping the terrifying Azura field in this endless god's domain, and gain a chance to catch his breath. For Yunxi, his 4 ex-girlfriends finding out and blocking him was an absolute death trap. Unfortunately, even though Meyer had the card of the Star Trial, the 4 ex-girlfriends who had let Starchild escape multiple times were not to be taken lightly. They were all prepared with different tricks in case this situation occurred. Supreme Dragon God Asha threw out the chains made from the flesh of the star-hunting dragon Mumu Narabel. The divine Ionia presented her rainbow-colored ribbon made with the power of destiny. The chaotic ruler Naya forcefully engraved the chapter of the abyssal demon's true name. Nameless Lady marked the target with a unique seal that branded them as a sinner in the entire Endless God's domain. Right now, the 4 forces are fighting for the island formed by Yunxi's flesh and soul in the void. If things continue like this, it's not looking good. So, Meyer had to make a proposal for Yunxi to choose the power of one of his ex-girlfriends and suppress the powers of the other 3 ex-girlfriends. This can only happen when 4 forces are kept in balance, and then Yunxi's will can have a decisive impact. Only Yunxi himself can break this dilemma that he's facing. If I had to choose only one. Yunxi looked around at the 3 factions tearing at each other, wearing a helpless expression. No matter who you choose, it's a dead end. The only difference is whether you die early or die late. This is the consequence of treading on the 4 ex-girlfriend boats from before the creation. He underestimated the severity of the calamities he had caused in his past life. The 4 legendary ex-girlfriends haven't appeared yet, but they have already caused the star bridge of the Endless God's domain to almost collapse. If the 4 of them were to arrive and start fighting, it would be a scene of unimaginable destruction. It would be so good if they all loved peace like the Queen of the West who came to Lilibet. Without realizing it, Yunxi liked Lilibet and the kind Queen of the West even more. In this big chaos, they were the only ones who didn't harm him. If I can only choose one, then it's her. With conflicting eyes, Yunxi held on to the cold and somewhat familiar chain. Supreme Dragon God Asha. Although she seems to be the most dominant and actively pursued of his 4 ex-girlfriends, the power she uses is the one that Yunxi is most familiar with. Her daughter star-hunting dragon Mumu Narabel is also the only dragon that Yunxi knows the real name of, and is the youngest member of the Starwings Knights that he planted the seed in. Looking back now, his encounter with Mumu felt like fate. Now his body is bound by the flesh and blood chain of star-hunting dragon Mumu Narabel, and he can't separate from it even if he wanted to. Since there are no good choices, at least choose the one that you're more familiar with. So, it's you, Asha's power. The silver-white, holy and invincible power of the star-hunting dragon, transformed by the sacred Mumu. At the moment when Yunxi made his choice, the silver-white star-hunting dragon chains suddenly emitted a dazzling brilliance, as if proudly declaring their victory in this war against the other 3. The once isolated situation of the 3 factions began to undergo drastic changes with this choice. The vessel that constituted Yunxi's flesh and soul began actively accepting the life form from the star-hunting dragon Mumu Narabel and actively merging with it. This is not surrender, just a temporary compromise. The multicolored ribbons, along with the Black Holy Bible composed of the true name of the demon god, and the sinful imprint condensed by Nameless Lady, were temporarily suppressed deep within the isolated island by the silver-white star-hunting dragon chains. Amidst countless silver-white particles dancing around, the goal of the Star Trial world kept changing, finally revealing a world in the midst of the clash between the new and the old, full of transformation. That world had the shadow of a giant dragon, the traces of an abyss, and a mysterious tower that had been under construction since the Divine Era. In a world where ancient magical bloodlines and modern technology coexist, a new era is about to hatch from its closed shell. A world called Sia. Chapter 1041 We purchase Sia's world, the oldest words from the Creator God. In the beginning, this world had no light. The boundary between the sky and the earth was mixed together, and the entire world was in a chaotic state, like a gaseous environment. Only a huge beast called Leviathan lived in the atmosphere filled with chaos. Until one day, a sword named Sia fell into this world and instantly killed Leviathan, the sky beast that was roaming in the atmosphere. The Leviathan, killed by the sword, cursed the sword that fell from beyond the sky. Its remains formed an unbreakable barrier in the atmosphere, permanently sealing the ancient sword that fell here. The remaining part fell into the interior of the gaseous planet and became the land. Sia, as the Creator God's sword that divides the sky and the earth, also became the name of this world. From the remains that fell from Leviathan, the sky beast, the dragons, the kin of Leviathan, gradually appeared. They were the rulers of this world in its ancient times, the masters of the earth and the sky. Apart from being unable to leave the atmosphere, the dragons had unlimited freedom. They were the most powerful beings in the divine era, direct descendants of Leviathan. They are born with the powerful magic of Leviathan and strong bodies. Even the weakest white dragon can fly in the sky and make the earth tremble with a roar. The dragons dominated the world until the divine era arrived. In this world's divine era, it began with a sudden magic tide, which was said to be a sign of Creator God's sword Sia awakening and regaining power for Su. The oldest humans appeared in that era. These humans suddenly appeared on the earth are the ancestors of the human race in this world. They were born with incredibly powerful abilities and could even withstand the mighty dragons. Among them, the strongest hero, known as a legendary figure with demigod powers, once single-handedly killed 3 ravaging evil dragons, astonishing the dragon race. God weapons also began to appear in that era. It is said that all the god weapons in this world are fragments of Creator God's sword Sia. At the peak of the divine era civilization, humans possessed 17 god weapons, which even the dragons feared. That era was the proudest time for humans. The human civilization, where humans were the main race, and the exotic civilization, where dragons were the masters, formed the 2 poles of this world. After several large-scale wars, both sides suffered heavy casualties. Realizing that the world could no longer bear such wars, the dragons and humans signed a ceasefire agreement, acknowledging the human sovereignty over the continent during the divine era. The dragon clan withdrew from the struggle for sovereignty over the continent and entered the depths of the ocean with most of their kin, becoming the rulers of the sea. Humans gained control of the land, while the dragon clan ruled the seas. The sky belonged to the gods during the divine era, and finally, peace was achieved. However, humans, dragons, and other races discovered a shocking phenomenon. The magic tide, the source of magic power, was weakening. Humans with the divine era bloodline were born because of the magic tide. The decline of the magic tide meant that those humans with the divine era bloodline would face decline and perish. Similarly, the dragons in the ocean didn't fare much better. Their bodies had adapted to the presence of the magic tide and had significantly evolved from the original dragons. They were no longer primitive dragons that relied solely on physical combat. The decline of the magic tide represented the overall weakening of supernatural powers. Humans, dragons, and other races all entered a period of great decline. No one can explain why this phenomenon occurs, just like no one knows where Creator God's sword Sia exists in this world and in what way. The magic tide brought the civilization of this world into its most glorious era. Humans could build towers hundreds of meters high on the plains and create nearly eternal tombs underground. In the declining divine era of the magic tide, humans even tried their best to obtain forbidden power, which was the study of nuclear explosions. Unfortunately, these final efforts ended in failure. During the divine era, no one possessed the power of nuclear explosions. Soon after, the weakening of the magic tide caused the entire world's civilization to begin a great decline. Without the magic towers that absorbed magic from the air, humans could no longer maintain protective magic barriers around their cities or launch magic cannons. War returned to the era of swords, spears, knights, and sages. The power of the wizards gradually weakened with each generation, and eventually, they were unable to guide magic through wisdom alone. Only the warlocks who still carried some divine era bloodline reluctantly kept the existence of magical civilization. Now, there is no longer any fertile ground for the birth of orthodox mages. The extreme weakening of the magical environment has led the mages who relied on learning and wisdom to reach a dead end. They can only switch to becoming scholars and alchemical warlocks to preserve the last dignity of magical professions. The road of advanced technology is the path that the wizards had to choose when they lost their magical powers. The pure-blooded warlocks, who inherited the final glory of the divine era, have become as rare as living fossils. There are probably less than 10 of them in the whole world. Now, no matter which continent you are on, even if you can only perform basic and rough spells as a warlock, it proves that there is still a tiny trace of the divine era factor in your bloodline. You won't have to worry about making a living for the rest of your life. Despite living in a world where the divine era bloodline has completely declined, people still yearn for the brilliance of that era. Even scholars and alchemists who have turned to the path of advanced technology are no exception. The dragons have disappeared. The owners of the magic towers have all died. The descendants of Leviathan have, one by one, lost their extraordinary powers and even have difficulties with reproduction. Humans, who once reached the peak in the divine era, can no longer cultivate hero-ranked wizards. After the divine era, besides bloodline warlocks, no one has entered the realm of hero-ranked wizards. Knights, armor, spears, and swords have become the main forces in war once again. The disciples of wizards have had to start learning politics anew. The formula for calculating magic power was completely changed. It was replaced with the simple principles of mechanics and lever structures. The era of magic came to an end, and the era of knights began. Whether descendants of Leviathan or descendants of the divine sword Sia, they all had to get used to the new rules and find their balance again in blood and fire. Scholars found a path called black technology through countless failed experiments. If everything goes smoothly, this power should have been the one to completely conquer the world. Until this day, something from beyond the sky broke through the curse of Leviathan the sky beast and fell to the ground of this world. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.